And you can't even drive? I can. Are you stupid, eh? Are you a stupid fool? Well, why can't you drive then? You can't even drive! A bit grey today, isn't it?
I'm here. Welcome to another edition of everybody's favourite afternoon show, The Deepest Lore. Away from the baying crowds, away from the low IQ of an unwashed or similar types of characters, away from the trucks. Here we are on The Deepest Lore. Welcome back, Pharaoh. How are you doing this week, sir?
Yes, very well. Thank you very much.
And we're also joined by Semi-Agog. How are you doing, Semi-Agog?
What? Hello, gentlemen.
And sorry we're a bit late. In fact, we don't really have much of an excuse. We were just chatting, basically, and got into conversations about bazaars and kind of Eastern barter culture and various other things. I will say, I have on this channel talked about the importance of the core skills of the Trivium quite a lot. The logic, writing, and rhetoric. And before I came on air, I happened to watch a video that was literally off the charts. Have either of you guys ever seen Vox Day's two-parter, Why Western Civilization Needs Christianity? It's from about 2 years ago. Part 2 of that is one of the best YouTube videos ever made, in my view. It's just phenomenal. And he's off the charts on his writing, on his delivery, and on his logical thinking. So highest praise for Vox Day of 2 years ago there.
and you were saying this, you're saying your wife has now become a big Vox Day fan as well.
Yeah, well, I laid up his channel because I still haven't watched them, but I was getting ready to watch his videos on sexual hierarchy, alphas, betas, gammas, all of that sort of stuff, ready for Cigar Stream tomorrow, where we're doing part 2 of the WQ after the bloody abomination of last week, which we were also talking about. I left it on, and Mrs. AA just it was like she came in accusatively, like, "Who's Vox Day?" It's like, just a guy. What's going on now? Oh, and then she's like, "Yeah, I really like him. I really like him." And she started watching the Christianity one, and then I finished watching it with her, and then we watched part 2 straight away. And honestly, one of the best ever. Like, if I ever had to compile my top 10 ever videos on YouTube from like the political sphere, that would make it. And I'm trying to even think of what's comparable. I mean, some of Sargon's early feminism videos, I haven't gone back to watch them, but I remember them being good at the time. Probably they'd be a bit cringe to watch now. So I don't know. Any of you guys got any like favorite vids that you remember, like stuck with you?
Speaking of Sargon, I quite liked his Starship Troopers one that he did. That was pretty good, and he did this big one on fascism, and one on fascism as well. Those were both excellent. Like his long form stuff is actually pretty good, but I think it just takes so much additional time and effort. Like it must be 3 or 4 times like a normal video, that it's a real tough commitment. So.
Yeah, no videos stand out for me, really. But I am looking forward to the business of this pickup artist thing, because since this is the deepest lore and it's not the unwashed masses, I guess that was anyway. I didn't mean to say unwashed, but anyway, I look forward to the pickup artists thing, because once upon a time, I spent quite a bit of time and energy and effort over about 2 decades chasing skirts. So there's gonna be a high standard. I'll be watching.
Yeah.
I won't be taking notes.
Always welcome to come on, Semi-Agog. I can send you the material if you want.
Is is it specifically going to be about picking up women and how that goes? And
no. I'm much more interested in how the PUA material is a way into discovering some eternal truths about men and women in general. So yes, there is a lot of stuff about specific tactics, but I've not really been concerned. You know me, Semi-Agog, the data, right?
Right.
And but also some of the things you learn along the way. Like one of the most interesting things is how the beta simp mentality is actually the mentality of 90% of men, and all men convince themselves that they're the only one who's ever tried it, right? They're different. They're the white knight. So a lot of that stuff is interesting into what men are like, and then also what women are like.
That's where the rubber meets, where the rubbers meet the road, right? I'd be interested in coming on. The only thing is that it would reveal me utterly as a degenerate, a reformed one. But
no, I mean, we've all had our. I mean, don't know if I should reveal anything, but we've all had our past experiences, eh?
Right. Water under the bridge.
I'll send you the material, Semi-Agog, and you can see what you make of it, because there's some pretty interesting stuff. How can I say? One of the most interesting aspects of the PUA stuff is how they basically say, like, listen, women just will have double standards. They will not take responsibility for things. Like, they're very matter of fact in how they speak about women. And I think from a certain point of view, feminists would just say, well, this is just straightforwardly misogynistic, but it also kind of rings true with all of, anyway, I'm just be thinking about like best videos ever before we get into this Revelation in Art continuation that we're going to do. And just trying to, Morgoth has had a couple of ones that stand out to me.
Yes.
He's had a couple of really good ones.
He's been on fire this year. Literally, I genuinely original ideas. Because again, I think a problem with a lot of videos is they're all on some kind of like waves of memes or ideas. But Morgoth always comes out from a totally different angle. I was saying to Semi-Agog before we started, actually, he just did a stream recently on the Burning Man Festival, and like lessons and ideas about how kind of groups and culture is formed. And again, it was like no one's talking about it whatsoever. No one's asked to do analysis on it, and it was a really good stream. So I really like that kind of stuff that isn't necessarily trendy, but it's eternal at the same time. So
yeah, that's what I think Morgoth does. I'm not saying he does the same thing as I do, but when I look at my feed, right, everybody's talking about Dr. Fauci. I'll make a video on the mafia. I like just because you can imagine in somebody's feed, you don't want to have the same topic as everybody else. So I always think I always counter program all of my videos, and if ever I fall into rank punditry, that's me on an off week, or giving into pressure, or being lazy or whatever. So but I do appreciate he really does come from. He did that thing about the yellow.
Yeah,
the color yellow.
Great.
And
that little short story, yeah.
The recent one on Arrival is quite good too. He delivers. He's quite good. I can't say which videos strike me the most, because I've watched so damn many of them, especially over this last period with the Koof. But one guy that stands out who needs to be producing more videos, I haven't seen him produce them in a while, and I was really pleasantly surprised by his short form clips, is Panama Hat. He's got his own little channel and has these interesting little, sort of short form clips with observations on things, and they're quite good.
Well, I believe he is working on another video, and it will be out shortly. So just definitely keep an ear out.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, that's enough of jerking everybody else off. I'm just trying. Dutton has had a few good ones from back in the day. I seem to remember. I'm just trying to think of ones that really stand out. It is kind of difficult when they all, when there is so many of them. There was a guy, a bit of a spicier creator from back in the day. I think he's probably been banned now. who made some quite good vids. I'm trying to remember his name. He's probably like long been banned. He had like a very autistic voice, I seem to remember. Can you remember the guy I'm on about? Rather spicy.
You're talking about alternative hypothesis?
No, he was even more spicy than alternative hypothesis. Something beginning with V. It was like some name I could never say, and he sounded like a bit like a computer. This guy, but he was always like very well edited and kind of black pilly type material. But I remember him being quite good. In fact, he was one of those guys whose videos kept on being like re-uploaded by other people as they'd be taken down. PJW San Francisco video always stands out to me. Just trying to think of the ones that come to mind, All right, shall we get a move on then? So we're talking about revelation in art. This was that's it. Vertigo Politics. That's the one I was thinking of. He had some very good vids back in the day. I mean, like I said, on the edgier side, but I like to walk on the wild side. So when I'm watching stuff. Okay, so where did we get up to, Pharaoh? And just for the people joining us who missed last time, what are we up to?
Yes, so we're looking at the Book of Revelation in the Bible, looking at it, just some of the scenes and vignettes, and then seeing how artists have kind of portrayed the different elements to it. And we did the just an introduction to St. John, a vision of the Son of Man. Went through the first 4 seals, which was the kind of four horsemen of the apocalypse. We did, and then we did the War in Heaven. But now we're moving into what I would describe as more of the kind of symbolic, very esoteric sections of the Bible with a lot of meaning to it. Starting off with the woman and the child and the dragon. So I don't know if you want to open up
I'll put it up. We're still hearing a lot of that sound that we were going on about before, by the way.
I will try and change mic.
So here we go. The woman, child, and dragon. Semiagog, do you want to have a go at reading this?
Yes. Hopefully I can make out all the text. Let me maximize my screen here. The woman, child, and dragon. Now a great sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. Then, being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 diadems on his heads. His tail drew 1/3 of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. She bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and his throne. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. Now, when the dragon saw that he had been cast to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness to her place, where she is nourished for a time, and times and half a time, from the presence of the serpent. So the serpent spewed water out of his mouth like a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away by the flood. But the earth helped the woman. And the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. And the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to make war with the rest of her offspring, who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ.
All right, so let's have a look at some of the arts. Pharaoh?
Well, yeah, just before we go into that, so like, I was kind of doing a bit of background research into different interpretations of this, and again, the last thing we went on to was the War in Heaven, and of course that kind of happens back in time. So again, Revelations isn't necessarily about things that are going to happen in the future. But again, from like a biblical chronology, the war in heaven is how Satan goes to earth before Adam and Eve and the tree and all that kind of stuff. Now, I've seen various people talk about the woman and the child potentially being Mary and Jesus, but there's lots of stuff that doesn't necessarily make sense. So again, people have said that this could have been something in the past in the kind of a pre-Abrahamic sense, because there's lots of thought around basically people worshipping God before Abraham. So he meets a guy called Melchizedek, who is also a worshipper of God. So that it does imply that there's some other stuff going on beforehand. But also there's some interesting parts there as well, where again the woman's given 2 wings of an eagle. Again, she's given she's had a place prepared by God for a specific number of time again. So again, goes back to kind of Semiagog's point around numerology, and I imagine is that divisible? Yes, divisible by 12, isn't it? 1,260 days. So yeah, no one really knows what this means, whether it's referencing the past or the future. But there's some interpretations as we go through.
Bearing in mind also that it wouldn't have to necessarily be the past or the future. There is also the idea of something that precedes our gross and materialistic conceptions of time. The idea, I mean, not least the notion of eternity, because, you know, what is the beginning and what is the end of eternity? So you can step outside the idea of the linear time or the cyclical to the idea of a realm in which theophany, or the revelation of the divine through and in imagery, stands above the stream of duration.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But I mean, surely the people who you know, I don't know what edition of the Bible this is, Pharaoh. A lot of people were saying you didn't use the King James version, and they were disappointed with that.
I've used it occasionally, but for some of it, the vowels get quite complicated. So just for the sake of reading, I put in the New King James. So,
but clearly, whoever made this Bible surely thinks that the child is Jesus, because it's got capital C, which is a bit of a giveaway, isn't it?
Yeah, good question. I'm not sure about that. Again, like I said, but so for example, if you read the story, then again, obviously it sort of doesn't match up to Mary's story at the same time, where she was never pursued by forces. So they obviously moved from Nazareth to Egypt. I guess you could say that that's with Herod killing the children and stuff like that. But then there's stuff around ruling with the child ruling with the iron rod, and the symbology of, like, iron is normally associated with material strength and power. So anyway, I mean, you can debate it, but I don't think there's a lot of stuff that doesn't necessarily match up. Or again, like the dragon spewing the water out never occurs in the nativity story. There's no moment that there's like a flood or water in there. Hello?
Can you guys hear me? Sorry.
Yeah,
I can. It sounds like you dropped out there though momentarily.
I don't know why that keeps on happening. Shall we move on to look at some art then?
Yes.
So there's the woman and child, who I assume is Mary and Jesus in this interpretation.
Yeah. So this is from the one of the Yates Thomas manuscript, which is thought to be produced in England. And you can see the woman feeding the child from her teat, and then the red dragon on the right hand side there with his various heads and horns.
And what is that? 14th century, 15th?
Yeah, 14th century, so 1370. So the red dragon is often analogized to Satan and the devil, basically. So that's a character that's definitely confirmed. But it's kind of weird looking. I don't really like the red dragon very much there.
Yeah, it looks like something like, you can see the sort of peacock aspect though with the tail, the little stars on it, which is interesting. And in terms of the miniatures, it's got that business of the repeating geometric pattern, which you'll see particularly in the 15th century, I believe, but you can see it in the 14th as well. And I believe that that has something to do with the art of memory, because each of these framed pictures with the manuscript, you know, usually is appearing with associated text and is so supposed to form a basis for a memory image that will allow you to anchor the text. And those geometric shapes, they play a role I really don't understand yet, but it really stands out if you go and review images from that period. You'll find a lot of that repeating geometric patterns forming a background. And I believe it has something to do with the mnemonic aspect, but, you know, just an aside.
Looks a bit like a dog, the dragon heads. They look like dog heads, don't they?
Yeah. Well, the idea of like what a dragon looks like hadn't really formed during even the late medieval times. Like our modern conception, that's more of like a 17th century or beyond. So, you know, they would often have only 2 legs rather than 4, and you would have a short like eagle-like wing, and then a big clubby tail. So yeah, medieval dragons are very weird.
So here's another one.
This is from stained glass from Exeter Cathedral again, so slightly a little bit later in 1408. If you can just zoom in a bit, I quite like this one because you can see the dragon spewing out the water. So on the bottom left is the kind of red dragon, which has been this kind of compressed creature firing out water from its mouth, trying to get the woman who's on the top right, and then you can see the wings of eagles to the left of her, and then she's got her diadem of stars above her, and there's kind of significance in that. But I really like the red dragon in this one, where he's this kind of little hunched, ghoulish creature.
Wonder how much splash damage that water does.
Splash damage, right? And you have to saving throw against drowning, risk of drowning. Yes, splash damage. One thing really stands out to me about this, and it's very pleasing to the eye, is the way in which they've used I suppose it's the necessity for whatever the metal is that's linking the panels of glass together. I guess maybe lead.
Yeah, that's right.
The way in which it, in and of itself, has sort of lends this odd aspect to the artwork itself. I mean, you can see in some cases this is done with these sort of stained glass windows, but in this case it's done in a very interesting way that's almost organic. You know, there's no regularity to it, and they use it to help form some of the shapes. It's very interesting.
Let's carry on then. This is from a little bit later. This is 1493 by
Dürer.
Yeah, Albert Dürer. Yes, this is more of a Renaissance etching, and we saw he had this kind of famous 4 horsemen, but you've kind of got God above, kind of looking down. I quite like the kind of happy cherubs there. Then there's the saintly woman. Again, she's got that kind of the crown of stars with her eagle wings. And I really like the red dragon here. Him just kind of vomiting water up there. Yeah.
No, these dragons are a bit more kind of goat-like, aren't they? Well, that's kind of hold on. That's a goat. That's more kind of like a hog, I suppose. That one looks like a boar or something.
Yeah, they sometimes have different faces depending on the interpretation, but it's definitely not. But interestingly, he's got the four legs as well. So again, it does kind of just slowly change into our modern conception of the dragon, basically.
Very interesting. I kind of like this guy's stuff. We saw a few of his last time, didn't we?
Kind of like his stuff. He's the bomb, man. I mean, this whole period is where copper plate engraving has sort of just exploded onto the scene. You know, starting in Ferrara in the 1460s, somewhere right in there. It sort of goes hand in hand with the appearance of the incunabula or whatever, Aldus Manutius. You know, printing in general. And they're freed up to do copper plates, and his teacher, Dürer's teacher, Wolgemut, is also very interesting. They're just outstanding. It's one of my favorite artists ever. But does this have is the child shown here? Is that the one who's there in the cloth being held aloft by what looked like the 2 cherubs or whatever?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I think you're right. Actually, I thought it was a cherub at first. Can you zoom in above the head of the angel? And
there's the child.
Yeah, there you go. his little side of the story is very rarely shown. He'll either be swaddled or kind of like separated from the woman, but you don't see anything else apart from the woman.
In terms of interpretation, it does seem that that they have interpreted this artist, at least, and his culture, his period, they are interpreting it as sort of Mary and Christ child, because that crown of the stars, you can still see that with the Virgin of the Rocío in Spain. That's a typical characteristic for representations of Mary, and it may well be too. There's probably something going on there with standing on the crescent. Somebody more familiar with that.
Is that now that reminds me, just to bring the tone down, of do you remember in the Thundercats, Wile E. Kit and Wile E. Cat had those little skateboards that is Mary using the moon as a kind of hoverboard? Yeah, what's going on?
Just to bring the tone down, you just paused it, AA.
But I mean, what's the deal with that? What's the deal with the floating moon that she's standing on?
Well, the inverted crescent has got a long history. I remember speaking to Samuel about it a while ago, like dating back to kind of pre-Christianity. But it was adopted heavily by the Byzantines as a symbol associated with Mary. So you see it on a lot of textile works. But it's a crescent in this angle, basically.
But there is the idea of the Queen of Heaven, because the city of Byzantium being the queen of cities, and I dug into that. You have the idea of Hecate, and so early on you see, pre-Christian, you see on some of the coinage of the city of Istanbul, you have the star and crescent, because there's the idea that by moonlight the city of Istanbul was saved from the attacking army of I think it was Philip of Macedon. The one who is the father of Alexander, if I'm not mistaken. And the idea was that by moonlight, the dogs of the city who are sacred to Hecate and protect the walls became aware of the people attacking, and the city was defended. So there are probably any number of traditions that come together, but one of them is the idea of like a celestial female guardian that gets carried over from the pagan period into some of the Christian iconography. Or it's a hoverboard.
Somebody is saying that the 7 heads of this dragon represent the seven factions of intersectional evil. So, I mean, that was interesting.
We'll talk more about that, because there is basically the number of heads is significant, the number of horns and the number of crowns is significant, and it's made pretty explicit at a point later. But
just one last question before we carry on from this one. Does anybody know when dragons started to breathe fire as opposed to water? Because they're breathing water here, but we associate dragons with breathing fire. Does anyone have any idea about where that tradition comes from? Like, the dragon that's fought by Saint David, does he breathe fire? The one on the Welsh.
St. George, isn't it?
Oh, sorry, yes, it's St. George. Yeah.
No, it's basically like not certainly not in Renaissance art. He's never shown. Like the dragon's interesting because there are dragonic figures in Rome. So there's this kind of like sea-dwelling dragon, and again, if you think of Perseus and Andromeda, that story, that the beast there which is going to eat Andromeda, is it Andromeda? Please correct me if I'm wrong, but the woman who's sacrificed to the sea monster, that's often interpreted as a dragon, but in the medieval period, it's interpreted as just a reptilian creature with 2 legs, bird wings. So much later.
Yeah, I don't know if I can think of anything that's prior to, like, doesn't Smaug breathe fire in Tolkien? I mean, I think it's a fairly recent innovation. But I might be wrong.
Tolkien invented the fire-breathing dragon? That would be insane if that's true.
I'm not sure, but I think it's a relatively recent vintage. So if someone in the chat will disabuse us of this notion if I'm wrong.
Farah, you talk us through this one, and I'm going to look up sort of interest in real time here. Talk us through this one.
Yeah, sure. So this is a little bit later in 1590, and an artist called Tintoretto, who is basically one of the the triad of Venetian High Renaissance masters, the others being Titian and Veronese. And as we're kind of moving in, like from the kind of High Renaissance into Baroque, this is all about kind of classical forms. But Tintoret's interesting because he often uses a really beautiful selection of jewel tones in his colours. So you can see like the deep purples, the blues, that kind of muted yellow in the background behind the woman. All of those kind of like rigid medieval forms have gone, and it's all of these kind of fluid classical poses. And this is actually a bit of a mashup between two scenes. This is kind of Michael and the angels defeating the dragon, but you can also see the woman clothed with the sun on the top left-hand side as well. But yeah, I really like it just from some of the kind of color schemes, and also just how he's positioned some of the people. You can see some of the angels at kind of weird angles, and Tintoret is known for kind of placing people at very difficult poses to paint, which makes him very, very unique. So
just on the fire-breathing dragon front, as far as I can tell, just from a little look around, it seems to come from Slavic cultures. There seems to be a lot of fire-breathing dragons in Eastern European traditions and Slavic culture, whereas Western European dragons don't have the fire-breathing element until literally like the 19th century, as far as I can tell. So
well, that would explain my ignorance of it, certainly.
So there we go. I mean, I'm sure some nerd will correct that if it's wrong, but as far as I can tell, the fire-breathing element comes from Eastern Europe. So there we go. And in fact, it's meant to represent pre-Islamic society or something. The Slavic dragon is the dragon that we all think of, which is a little bit surprising to me. It comes from Albanian mythology and folklore, and Slavic mythology. Well, what do you know? I wouldn't.
Not sure about that. I'm gonna. I think we need to fact check anything from Albania. I'm fact checking. So
yeah, apparently Ukraine has got a history of fire breathing dragons. All right. So anyway, let's carry on. Okay. So anything else to say about this one before we move on?
Just that you've got her on a moon again, and
oh yeah,
and I would really be interested to I just did a quick search about it, and it had some sort of, were they saying Mary is the God bearer, is identified with Ecclesia. She's standing on the waning moon, which points out that the Old Testament and synagogue are the foundations of the church. But I really think you're probably seeing one of these carryovers from earlier iconography, sort of like the same kind of thing as like building the church on the site of a former pagan temple, the idea of carrying over elements that the common people would have identified with. Yeah. And there's the idea of the moon reflecting the light of the sun, which is a common sort of hermetic thing too. But
I love the idea of making a Jesus cartoon, Jesus from Friends cartoon, where Mary is always on her little hover moon, always kind of, hey, here's the mother again. She's surfing on her crescent, Oh.
No comment.
Well, I mean, look, she's always going about on her moon. You can see surfing, right? Or it's some reference to the menstrual hut, perhaps. Let's carry on. It's a pretty sharp crescent, though. I mean, that's a almost I don't know what you call that, but that's a very slim bit of a crescent there. All right, so let's carry on. This is Rubens.
Yes, this is a little bit further on, so we're kind of moving out of the High Renaissance and into the Baroque real. And again, Rubens did the really good Rebel Angels last time. This is kind of less good, but again, he's all about kind of like fleshy forms, very soft colors, very, very vibrant. And then you can see on this is another like double composition where you've got the dragon being stabbed by Michael on the left, and then the woman wrapped in the sun on the right, and then she's holding up the baby. I mean, can we zoom in on the feet? I think she's on an actual moon this time, like a full moon.
Yeah, full moon this time. Moon surfing it again.
And again, you can see the dragon is becoming more scaly, more like an actual
very serpenty. Actually, this one.
Yeah. So it's interesting seeing how that kind of perception changes over time.
What are these like lion men? Is that lion
I think
man?
I think that's just like generic demons basically around wrapped around. So it's kind of like the fall of the rebel angels on the left hand side, where Michael across there with the shield is casting them out. You've got God the Father above.
I mean, I hate to bring that into stone even more, but God the Father is making like Lakitu from Mario Brothers. You know, he's flying on a little cloud. Look, can you see? Can you see the cloud he's on?
I can see the cloud.
Cursed.
Zenial comment ahoy.
He'd be throwing out little spinies next. Anyway, let's carry on. Then we have, this is William Blake from 1805, Woman Clothed with the Sun.
Yeah. So again, Blake as ever has just like gone for something totally different, and rather than placing the woman at the top of the painting, he's placed her at the bottom. So you've got this kind of oppressive force from above, and that's his version of the red dragon. Blake has the devil more like how we conceive of him today, kind of like big red and horns, but you can see his other heads either side of him and a long tail. Yeah. And now he's already in like a bit of a weird pose because you're seeing him head on, and the woman's kind of like putting her arms out. She's got her eagle wings behind her, and again, can you see she is sat on the crescent moon? But instead of
there's the moon surfboard,
yeah. And then if you look on the left and the right, there's like a zigzag, and I think that's kind of representations of the water coming down. That's the stream. So rather than being vomited, you can sort of see the kind of stream in the background, and she's sort of on a hill basically. So I mean, again, Blake is just absolutely wild, totally out of the box thinking, and
she's a lot less Mary-like here, though. Would you agree? She's not obviously Mary here.
The unbound hair is like a big indication of that, and that's more of the romantic style. You know, romanticism is all about the beauty of nature and energy and passion at the same time. So yeah, I think it kind of reflects
a certain degree of androgyny too that you find in Blake. And I also note that the child seems to have disappeared.
Yeah, I can't see the child. I mean, I will note that the dragon has got some meaty thighs on him. Look at that thigh there, huge. Is that just kind of Blake's perspective, or is that like
he tends to? Romanticism's coming out of this period where they're kind of looking at the classical form again. So again, they kind of like that kind of it's almost like a Greek statue. But I mean, I think it's just the angle's a bit funny as well. So it's particularly wide, but
his figures tend to be pretty heavily proportioned, not in the sense that like they're trying to make him look like bodybuilders. His style, doesn't it, reflects that sort of heavy limbed. I mean, look at the woman herself, like no narrow neck, arms, etc. I mean, if you look at enough of Blake's art, it's consistent.
So let's carry on. Is that it for this section?
That's it. That's it for the little section. So it's a very mysterious little part. Now moving on to another famous and other mysterious, and this is the two beasts, which are summoned by the dragon. So, shall I read this one?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yep. And I stood upon the sands of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having seven heads and 10 horns, and upon his 10 horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth was as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast, and who is able to make war with him? So this is kind of like depicting the dragon summoning a creature very similar to him. So again, you can see the 7 heads, 10 horns, and 10 crowns. So very, very similar. I think it's a slightly different number compared to the dragon. But he's also described as being less reptilian and having this kind of multiple animal form. Now, this actually references one of Daniel's visions, who dreams of 4 independent creatures: a leopard, a bear, and a lion as well. And so it's thought to either represent different ages or a series of kings. And again, the heads are meant to represent different cities as well. So while the dragon is this kind of spiritual representation, the beast is some kind of physical manifestation of him. So whether that's a kingdom, or like because each of the horns represents a king as well. So it's kind of like it could be like a confederacy, literally like a confederacy of Satan, basically. So some kind of physical force.
So you have kind of 2 things going on with the animals. One is the idea that as they're sort of mixed together, it's the idea that God's ordered creation is made a mockery of. You know, it becomes this sort of obscene thing made up of bits and pieces of everything else. But you mentioned also these animals. There's like Titian, I think it's Titian, with his allegory of the ages of man, you know, where you see the young man, the middle-aged man, and the old man. And you have the 3 heads of time, and there's a long manuscript tradition for it, where the wolf is the past that drags away its victims from your memory. The present is like a lion, violent and sudden, and the future is like a dog. In one of the manuscripts I saw, it says constantly beguiling its master with false hopes. And then you also have, don't you, in the beginning of Dante, where he's going through the woods, isn't there? I think it's a wolf, a leopard, and a lion, maybe. So there are echoes of this tradition all over the joint in Western art.
So essentially here we've got like an end boss fight, and all of a sudden there's now another beast. Like you're now facing 2. So the dragon has given birth to another beast that Christ has to face here.
Yeah, I guess there's always questions as to like what power Satan would have on the world. Basically, does he have like a physical presence in the same kind of way? But this is almost I always thought of this as a like a thinner physical manifestation of his power. You know, the beast is given the authority of Satan. You know, so a very dark force.
So I mean, is the dragon Satan?
Yeah,
the idea.
Yeah,
the dragon is Satan, and essentially first spell summon first beast. That's what he's done. Or first spell shoot water. Second spell summon first beast. Right. I'm just thinking of him as a Magic the Gathering. You know, he's playing his cards. He's like, well, you know, this is big summon the first beast. So let's have a look at the first beast here. Here we go. This is from 1255. Or is it the Getty Apocalypse, London?
Yeah. So again, this is him kind of sitting down, and they've got him as again of a half human form, and then you can see all of his different heads, and then on his heads are the kind of horns, and then those dots are meant to represent crowns at the same time. And on the left, you can see like these are kind of nobles and peoples, and they're kind of bending their knee and you know, praising the beast.
Oh my God. Bending the knee, eh? I mean, does that have any symbolic significance, do we reckon? Semi-Agog, I mean, I know you've studied these things. Do you think they deliberately chose bending the knee as a, you know, covert anti-Christian message?
It's just it's a sign of submission, because it's, you know, on your way to the ground, right? I mean, is it not? I mean, I get the echoes of these sports games starting, you know, which are apropos.
Yeah, I mean, all right. Yeah, I mean, I've always seen it as a kind of submissive gesture. It's kind of obvious, isn't it? But
yeah.
So here we go, and then pretty big sword on him as well. And then we've got the first beast from. What's this from?
This is the Angers tapestry. So again, they've got the full Revelation mapped out in Tapestry, and then you can see the dragon on the right hand side, and he's sort of quite dragony there, I thought. And then you've got the beast in the center, and they've got him as like a leopard basically, and that's a very popular medieval depiction. But he's holding the rod of authority there. Can you see? So again, kings would often have this kind of rod showing that they're the most powerful people, and that's the
I love the way rod. I love the way Pharaoh they Frenchified it, like
yeah, exactly, yeah.
But it's kind of interesting. Like you think this massive dragon, and he needs to summon. He needs a minion to fight on his behalf, which is
that's what I'm saying about the physics. There's the importance of the physical manifestation of it. Do you know what I'm saying? So I wonder if there's something there, but who knows?
And I'm not sure that the fleur-de-lis is what everybody thinks it is. I think it appears with Clovis first. Yet I have to ask somebody like the historian. I refer to Apostolic Majesty now as the historian. Take a look at an Ancus, the elephant goat that's used as a sign of rulership in the East. This is basically an Ancus with two sides. So you've got the idea to stimulate, to push it forward, as I often mention, and the two hooks to restrain. So it's a sign of rulership as a goad or hook or kentron or stimulus, I think.
Have you ever read any Aquinas, Semi-Agog?
Just a little bit, because not much. His works are vast.
If you ever read any of the Summa Theologica, he always says, on the contrary, because the philosopher says, or, and the philosopher is Aristotle, right? Or the master says, the master is Peter Lombard. I'm just imagining us like doing our own Summa Theologica, but, on the contrary, the historian says, and the historian is, the pasta liquor, or the car manufacturer says, and who that is,
right.
etc., etc.
Well, that's exactly how I'm using the historian. So yes.
So one last thing. The legs on this dragon are a bit stubby and kind of pig-like, aren't they? Look at those.
Yeah, I mean it's a grotesque creature. Look how thin the necks are. It's just all out of proportion. And again, this is a world where physiognomy is real and ugly things are bad. So Satan has to be ugly.
So let's carry on. Now we have 1408 York Minster.
Yeah, this is a very, very famous representation. Again, this is the stained glass, and again, this is a very. I mean, they've rendered the dragon as the most like dragony dragon ever. Yeah, exactly. And again, he's passing over the rod again, and I mean, it's interesting. It's not quite a fleur-de-lis. It's more like some kind of three-pointed object,
and then, it's like a medieval scepter. Yeah,
exactly. And then I quite like the beast with its kind of grimacing leopard's face there.
It's kind of this horrendous puppet creature, isn't it? Look at the other heads. They're kind of like poles. If you imagine seeing that, you'd be like, "What on earth is this?" So, and there is huge paws. Look.
That's the bare feet.
Yeah, pretty good summoning action here from the dragon. I like that. Any comments on this one, Semi-Agog?
No.
Okay, so let's carry on. Then we have Blake. Oh, here we go.
So Blake's interesting. He sort of I think he recognizes the that the beast isn't necessarily just about summoning like another creature, like you said. Just to use your terrible analogy, it's not like a wizard summoning a familiar or whatever. It's more like giving birth, and the fact that Satan has pulled up this creature very similar to himself in terms of the number of the heads and stuff like that. And again, the jealousy of Satan between God the Father and God the Son. So people have analogized the first beast almost being like Satan's son. And you can see here, he's summoning the beast from the deep. Now, there's something interesting. There's something interesting here where, again, in Revelations and in other parts of the Bible, water is associated with evil. So in the new world that is created, there is no water, there are no seas. The beast is formed from the deep. The great dragon spews out water from his mouth. So you can see here, he's coming up, being drawn up, and I quite like if you see his like Satan's hands. It's It's a very quiet moment from him, but then you see the kind of beast triumphant holding a mace. It's the rod again on the right hand side, but then also the sword of power. But again, he's coming up literally between the legs of Satan as well. So again, it's this kind of birthing moment. From that. But again, I think Blake's done an amazing job here.
It's almost like some amniotic fluid of sorts. I wonder also with the Eastern origins of these visions. So it has come down to us whether there's some echo there of Tiamat, goddess of the waters and the sea, and sometimes represented as a dragon. Who knows?
I mean, this creature is horrendous, isn't it? Imagine, I mean, both of these are horrendous. I mean, does this speak to Satan's vanity at all? That he's gonna create something that's almost identical to himself?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. One of the things I'm wondering about here with a lot of these is that obviously the kings of England and France did hold a sword and a scepter like this. So, was there any hint of contemporary comment through having this thing depicted at all? I mean, obviously it's from Revelation, but it's like the earthly power, I mean, I know the king is meant to be God representative on earth, but I mean, do you see what I'm saying? Like, it chimes with this. So is there any
it could be
saying, like,
it could be a physical. It could be a physical object. We don't know, but there is some way that this group of cities and group of kings will be anointed by Satan somehow. So again, like, people have analogized it to be a weapon of sorts, or again a futuristic technology that gives those cities power over the world, basically. Because again, people marvel at the beast. They think this is amazing, and I always think the technology has that kind of marvelous quality. So maybe that's it.
There's also, I mean, there's a whole hermeneutic tradition, or one branch of interpretation related to the apocalypse that views it as a set of images relating to the political circumstances at the time. And so in that, I mean, you've got the idea of these 7 regions and letters and seals and everything. So someone who knows more about the Christian background of it could probably weigh in. But there is definitely the possibility that at the time it related to kings of men and their activities in the world.
I just want to mention one more thing before we look at the next one. Do you remember how I was saying that Revelation is my favorite book, right, from the Bible? Mm-hmm. It's stuff like this. Like, how mental is this? Not only does Satan appear with 7 heads, and does this, he then summons another beast that is got. I mean, this is getting like very many layers of trippy now. Would you not agree that this is like odd things happening here in the context of? Do you not think that this is absolutely bonkers? What's going on here?
Well, there are traditions for it. Specifically, there are some very highly developed ones out of Persia, of all places. There's the idea of how do I say this really quickly? There's the idea of sort of in a Platonic or Neoplatonic, properly speaking, framework. There's the idea of the descent of images, which are the ideas, which are timeless and perfect because they don't undergo transformation and change, and yet they hold within themselves the seed of all forms. And then there's manifestation, where things in the world are born and grow and then wither and die. And so the world of things is the place where everything degrades and changes and therefore is less real. They inverted our whole thing about empiricism. And so the things that were eternal and timeless were closer to the ideas or the ideas themselves, and were true. Whereas the things in matter and manifestation were changing and therefore false. And they posited in between a middle realm. So, for example, the esoteric Shiite doctrines, and you see this reflected in all sorts of traditions of how to understand these various visions, which you're calling the trippy aspect. They posited an intermediate world. So you had the world of light, and then you had the world of clay. The world of light is this realm of ideas where everything is stable. The world of clay is where it manifests in forms that are visible to the senses, but they decay and change. What they did is they posited an intermediate realm where the forms themselves became more fluid and dreamlike, but the ideas, because it's intermediate between the ideas and manifestation, the ideas took on physical forms, but the physical forms took on a kind of fluidity. So they actually had a whole sort of ontology that explained this specific trippy aspect, and you can see it reflected from a Teresa of Avila to a the Apocalypse of St. John, to any number of these sort of visionary revelations like this one. And Blake, of course, is very much suited to this because he was half crackers.
This is one of the better ones we've looked at, I reckon. This painting right here. But anyway, let's carry on. Very interesting indeed. So now we have the second beast. Shall I read this first, guys? All right. Yeah. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword, and did live. And he had the power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666.
I'm hearing that Iron Maiden song right now.
Do you know? I only think of the current push towards 100% vaccination, digital currency. I was thinking, is this what they're trying to do? Like before you're allowed to buy or sell or do anything, you need to have the mark on the beast on you. The freedom passport, as they're calling them.
Yeah, well, there's interesting. There's lots of stuff going around about analogizing the passports to that, but I don't think it is related, because this is, if you look at the Greek, it's a physical mark on the people. But I think there's always these kind of recurring echoes throughout time, and it definitely is reminiscent of that. What's interesting is the second beast. So the first beast is very much, like I said, a collection of cities or kingdoms, while a second beast is definitely meant to be an individual man. There's also something interesting around the first beast, his like fatal wound and being killed, and so this idea of resurrection as well. So again, the first beast has been resurrected, like as a juxtaposition for Jesus's resurrection as well. So kind of interesting.
Let's have a look at the second beast then. I mean, 666 is obviously 666, isn't it? I mean, that's some people are miswriting that in the chat. I can see 600, 3 score is 60, and 666. All right. So here we have Dürer again. So let's have a look. Here we have God the Father, presumably. He's holding the moon like a boomerang this time. Is that the moon?
Yeah,
no,
I think
no, it's a little scythe actually.
Oh, right. The scything. I haven't got it as a verse later, but he there's a part where he cuts the grapevines of the earth down, whatever that is meant to mean. So he's depicted as having a little sickle in his hand.
Yeah, sickle, not scythe. There's an interesting bit with a vine out of Israel. I can't remember what part of the Bible it's in, but there's a whole tradition of the idea that the bloodlines coming out of I don't want to say Judea or Israel or whatever, but it's the Levant there with the Jewish tribes, and they're represented as vines that grow and extend through time. So that may well be the idea of cutting off bloodlines or the ending of lineages.
Now this is the dragon again, isn't it? Or is this the first beast?
I think it's the first beast, and then on the left-hand side is the second beast. Who's sometimes depicted as this kind of horned creature or horned man. Now it's interesting because the horned man was there are depictions of that, and that is some depictions of Alexander the Great. I don't know if you, Semigog, may know this. Towards the end of his reign, he was sometimes depicted as having a pair of curled horns like that, which I thought was interesting.
Zeus Ammon. Yeah, he was identified with the Zeus Ammon god, which was a sort of Greco-Egyptian conflation where it was a type of horned Zeus, during that whole Hellenistic period where all the gods got jumbled together.
Now, I hate to be the lowest brow member of this panel, but
you in fact love it.
I continue to be Daria to the core, but I cannot help but notice, child of the 80s that I am, that I think that this beast here from Dura has been raided by many a design artist in history. For example, I'm a massive fan of the film The Labyrinth, right?
Yes.
If you remember those, in fact, we talked about this last week. Do you remember those fiery creatures whose heads come off in The Labyrinth? Their heads bounce up and down, and Sarah has to escape over a wall. I'm pretty sure if you look at the design of those, that head there must have been the original inspiration for that. It's almost identical.
And one of them there is definitely that flying dog-headed worm thing from Neverending Story.
Yeah, that's Neverending Story. And that, if you look, there's a particular production of Alice in Wonderland where the March Hare looks not a million miles away from this creature here. That's obviously, so I'm just saying that this, I feel like this has been raided by many design artists or many kind of conceptual artists coming up with their various things in here. I'll pull up a picture of the Fireys in a second, but you cannot look at the Fireys and tell me that was not the original inspiration for them. Also, my second truck-like comment, and I will try to simmer down with my low IQ intervention soon, is that I'm picturing a video game, right, where you take a sword to the first beast here, okay? You get him down to like low health, and then there's a cut scene, and the second beast comes, heals him up, and the second beast is obviously like a buff, isn't he? He's buffing the first beast, if I understood it. So if you were going to take these two on, you'd have to take out the second beast first, otherwise he's going to keep on healing this one. Is that right?
Well, it's interesting. Like I said, I think the first beast represents a nation or city, while the second one represents a person. And again, it's almost like a prophetic style character. I mean, I think probably the closest modern analogy would be Tony Blair. Tony Blair is like the second beast. He is like he's the one who's creating the idol for everyone to worship down, because he's like a conduit. He's kind of passing the worship onto the dragon and the beast. He never asked for it himself, but he is like a minion of Satan, basically.
Witness here the birth of an entire now theme that will develop on Academic Agents channel of Tony Blair as the beast.
Now, I just want to show you the Fireys to show you I'm not making this up. Here are the Fireys from the lab. Can you see how these little creatures here? Look at them. They seem to be taken directly from this thingy that we're just looking. It's the same thing, isn't it? So anyway, I mean, am I seeing things? It looks like a very similar design to me. And without looking it up, I wouldn't be surprised if that artist has said, like, yeah, I saw this old etching, you know, from Trura, and I took that design. Anyway, let's carry on. Anything else before we move on from this?
Just that, can you see he's got everyone worshipping the beast? If you look at the bottom there, and it's like kings and queens, and again, Dürer with his anti-Catholic message has got like even a bishop bowing down to the beast. If you,
I noticed that bishop. Yeah, interesting. Look at that fat hog there in the background. Yeah, I mean, what are these clouds raining here? In the 80s, you probably don't remember this. Simply, if anybody remembers this, there was a sitcom which had Jesus in it in the 80s. It was called like Michael or something, and every once in a while, like he was hanging out with this guy who was a trucker, and every once in a while he'd make it rain over his head. Do you remember that, Sammy Gog? Remember that? What was that?
I do not.
Michael. It was called like Michael or something. TV show. Jesus. I just remember that damn show.
Wow. Yeah. No, I don't.
Somebody will remember that. But he'd make it every once in a while. If he was getting to like, if the trucker had this white beard.
Was it Heaven Can Wait? Maybe.
Heaven Can Wait. Yeah, sounds like that. It was called something like that. Heaven Can Wait. It was a TV show, not a film. He'd make it rain on his head. I'm trying to remember if it was Jesus or if it was meant to be like the Archangel Michael, something like that. But he'd make it rain on his head. And these rain clouds here reminded me of that. Anyway, let's carry on, shall we? Let's carry on. Highway to Heaven, that was it. Highway to Heaven. You don't remember this? It's pretty obscure.
I was watching the $6 Million Man.
Here we go. Highway to Heaven, right? There he was. There was the trucker. There was the angel or Jesus or whatever. This guy here, and every once in a while he'd make it rain on his head. So check out Highway to Heaven, and I
think it needs to come back as a meme for sure. Look at that dude, man. I remember it a little bit now, man. That hair. Oh my God.
All right, so I will try to keep my rank truckery to a minimum from now on. I'll try to withstand my Daria impulses. So let's. This is now Athos.
Yeah, Athos. This is the Greek monastic fresco. But again, I quite like their depiction of you got the beast on the right hand side of the water. You can see the water kind of as bands beneath him, and then the beast of the earth is literally depicted as like a big ram on a rock on the left hand side, and then on the bottom left you can see all of the people bowing down to the beast. Obviously they got Turkified and had their faces removed, but I quite like this.
It looks like the Turks have given him laser eyes. Look.
Yeah.
Okay, the second beast is a goat. It's just a goat here.
Yeah, the second beast is pretty lame on this one, but I like the first one.
And this is the first beast, okay. And the dragon has slinked off to let others do his battles here, okay. I mean, is the idea? I'm just trying to get the lore of Revelations in my head here. The dragon summons the first beast to go and rule the earth, right, before the apocalypse comes. So basically unite all of the men under the rule of the first beast. And then he sends the second beast basically as his like CNN evangelist, media to make sure that people worship the first beast. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that the basic plan here?
Yeah, that's similar. Like I would say maybe you'd have something like, I'm imagining the first beast would be like a federalized American style amalgam of countries. And then, like you said, this kind of prophetic figure going around and saying how wonderful it is, and because again, it's tied into miracles as well. That they've got the ability to rain down fire. So again, some kind of spectacular power.
And do we know what the text is here? That's very, very interesting to me. Do we know what it represents?
It's all Greek to me.
Because I mean, it just they're depending on what it says, that could be very interesting indeed in terms of I mean, it may just be passages, right? The passages in question that refer to the imagery, but to me, it just, you know, I'm just to bring it down a notch like A normally does. It just seems to me that this represents like almost like, you know, the words in the air, the misdirection and the nonsense. We get some sort of expert in iconography in the East in, and they'll be like, no, that's just the passages from the Bible to which, you know, that refer to these particular images. But, you know, just taking it as it is, it would be interesting to just have, you know, Build Back Better, you know, just or whatever phrases, you know, what is it? We might need to dial back on those freedoms, you know, or something that Tony Blair has said. It would be interesting to plug in there.
Yeah, I mean, to bring it, I did Bob Dylan last week, and I'm reminded of one of his songs from John Wesley Harding, "The Wicked Messenger," which is a very cool Dylan song. But it's kind of interesting that we have this figure of the second beast in Revelation, because what we call the cathedral, you know, the media and the academics and so on and so forth, seem to be playing this role, don't they? For, you know, the first beast would be like the many heads of globalization or whatever, or global government, and the second beast would be you know, the idea spreaders, wouldn't it?
Yeah, all I'm saying, you know, G7, the 7 heads.
Very interesting.
Right.
Very interesting. So let's carry on. This is now from the Getty Apocalypse book in London.
Yeah. I did this one because this is one of the only people marking. This is the marking of the beast. So you can see that's the statue that's been created on the left-hand side and it being worshipped. And then if you zoom in on the right, you can see the kind of cloven-handed creatures on the right. I think that's meant to be they've sort of got two scenes mixed together. So the creature in the middle there is actually the second beast, and he's carving the mark of the beast onto the hands and the head of that guy there.
All right. So this is actually two pictures. This is one where he's beckoning people to worship the first beast. And
that's right.
Here is a different image with the second beast, you know, giving the mark onto the heads of all of the fallen men. And look at them all abject, kneeling to him. Yeah.
And for context, that whole idea of marking the forehead, like there would be cases where the Greeks would come in and fighting another group of Greeks and like take over an island. I think I may have the details wrong, but I think it was at Samos. They came in and they cut they cut with blades sailing ship little symbols on people's foreheads, and then you rub the ashen or whatever to form a scarred tattoo on the forehead. The Romans did it when a slave was taken and sent to the mines. They would abbreviate it as DAM, D-A-M, for damnato ad metallam, to be sent to the mines. So just so that you have context, one of the words for it is stigma. And you know, so it generally meant mark, not just the scars on the hand in the Christian context. So the idea is that the marks on their foreheads being cut, or you know, drawn, I suspect, cut, and then having the stuff rubbed in to make it permanent. That's the context for marking the foreheads. It's an old practice going back to the classical period of marking people who are captured in battle as slaves, or people who were sent off with some punishment.
Yeah, I mean, people will think of the Faith Militant in Game of Thrones. That happens in there as well, where they mark the forehead. Can I just? I want one more thing where I have to get the lore clear here. The story of Revelation. These people who are bowing before the first beast here, and who are being, you know, marked by the second beast. Am I correct in thinking they've already been softened up by the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse? So, like. Satan sends the 4 horsemen, or the 4 horsemen ascend. They've softened things up. They've kind of, you know, basically, you know, they've crushed a lot of human civilization already. So people are already kind of desperate at this point when the 2 beasts arrive. Is that correct chronologically?
Yeah, we don't know whether it's connected chronologically or not, but certainly in terms of the layout and the books, it's done in that way. So, like I said, there isn't a consistent. It's not laid out as like here's the beginning, here's the end, but certainly in terms of where this book is, it's after the seven trumpets. So these kind of seven, tremendous moments of panic and death. So it's kind of like it's like a post-crisis world, if that makes sense.
Note also that the beast has the the 10 heads or the 10 little discs, whereas you see the representations of the female or the virgin figure with the 12. Just another echo of the fact that the imperial system and dozenal stuff is totally based, whereas anything that's based 10 is woke garbage. Universal is garbage. The decimal system is universal as garbage.
Let's carry on. Yeah, literally the mark of the beast. All right, so now we have beast.
Yes, so this one's quite hard to see, but I'm pretty sure at the back you've got the red dragon. The guy seated is the first beast, because you can see he's got the 7 heads and he's got the rod of authority again.
Yeah, the rod.
And then you can see between them is the second beast, who is this kind of like half goat, half man creature sitting between them.
Yeah. Mm.
So it's like a slightly different scene where they're kind of having a conversation of sorts, or and then if you look, can you look beneath them?
Yeah, I can see like the little people praying to them.
That's right. It's everyone's bowing down.
Now, is the idea of the second beast being like a kind of half lamb creature thing, that he's literally a false prophet, that he is being like sent as a fake prophet because he can do miracles and things in order to trick the people of the world into worshiping Satan rather than God? So is that?
Yeah. I mean, he certainly has that character. I don't know how the kind of goat or the sheep ties towards that. Because again, in other biblical traditions, you've got the kind of the sacrificial lamb and the sacrificial goat. So it's normally done in a more positive light, but there must be some kind of significance to it.
Yeah. Again, I can't help but think that we're literally living through this right now. I feel like these guys are taking over quietly, and these are all like all of our fellow countrymen, gentlemen, who are literally praying to these false prophets, and we just have to
and look at specifically how it relates to the idea of the protection of the body and that being made primary. That's a thing that I'm always hammering on, is this idea of a priestly caste. Once upon a time, the idea is that priests would attend to something beyond your body. But out of the priestly caste, you get the lawyers, because they used to have to be trained in canon law. You get the doctors. The word doctor just means learned one. And today what I call our clerics become clerks, brought down to date. They still like to speak Latin because it's the doctors and the lawyers who still use the Latin terms. But unlike the priests, it's as though it's been flattened, and the idea of the soul has been utterly removed. And so now what they attend to is your body, the physicians, and the lawyers. They attend to your estate. Among the ancient Romans, your physical possessions were considered an extension of your bodies. So like if you were the patriarch of the family and you were just being profligate with what you owned, an action could be brought against you in the sense that you were committing suicide in terms of wasting your estate. So it's your physical possessions, your property, and your body. And we still have this priestly caste, that they like to wear their white coats, the doctors, and speak Latin to you. But they've removed the soul and the spirit. And that's what we see going on with this business of COVID and the rest. Fear for the body.
That Vox Dei video I was talking about at the start of the stream, actually, part 1 is all about how, in his view, science needs Christianity because there's no incentive to be honest anymore. And so if you take out the moral underpinnings, which are all those things that you're talking about, scientists have an incentive to lie. Basically, they've got an incentive to lie. He's talking about the falsification crisis that they talk about, how most scientists can't replicate various studies and so on. But it's kind of interesting that he was talking about that 2 years ago, and now we've seen this kind of for everybody to see during the pandemic. It's very, very interesting indeed. I mean, did you see Fauci? He literally came out yesterday and said,
I am science.
An attack on me is an attack on science itself, he said. I mean, a proven liar at this point as well. So very, very interesting. I have to say that of this, there's been some great ones today, but this again is one of my favorites. This one here from I thought this was you just like it because it echoes Labyrinth, man. You have no power over me. Not just Labyrinth, but that kind of there's like a weird Czech version, like an animated Czech version of Alice in Wonderland from the 80s, and I'm pretty sure there's like a decrepit March Hare in that looks a bit like that, but
you can almost see it in like Fraggle Rock too, right? We'd have to get a D or some other Muppets expert in, but it seems to inform some of their creations too. Even
a hint of Dark Crystal there with that one. Yeah, looks like a Skeksis. Anyway, let's carry on. So then we have Babylon. So it's back on you, Semigog, for this one.
All right. Let me increase this. Pharaoh had to come in here and do this in italics, which is just much harder to read. Come hither. I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration.
It's a very harsh way to talk about Saffron, Semigog, but
wow, didn't see that one coming. You're like, talk about the slippery slope of selling stickers, huh?
Now, is this the first beast again? Because it sounds a lot like the first beast. It's got 10 horns, 7 heads. I mean, it must be the first beast, right?
No,
even though it's not named as such.
It's a woman, but she's sitting on the beast.
Yeah, no, there's a woman, but she's sitting on. She's sat upon a scarlet-colored beast. That scarlet-colored beast must be the first beast, right?
No, the beast isn't scarlet-colored. She's wearing scarlet and purple, but yeah, she's sitting on the beast, and again, quite explicitly later, the angel speaking to the writer says that again the beast is like a physical place with the horns representing kings and the necks representing hills which she sits upon. So Babylon is a city, maybe like the capital city of this kind of confederation of what the beasts are, and like it says, it's kind of like she's drunk with the blood of saints. So obviously liked to kind of kill Christians and stuff like that. So.
And I want to say Babylon was a city with 7 gates. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, the context of this is obviously the Babylon features quite a lot in the Old Testament because the Israel falls to Babylon, and there's a large repopulation. Like the Persians have forever been taking people and then moving them around to various places. Well, they did that with the Jews and took a whole lot of Jews to Babylon. So the story of Daniel is set in Babylon, and he becomes one of the kind of advisors to Nebuchadnezzar. and obviously Babylon has to fall for Israel to be rebuilt as well. So, and it does fall. There's like a prediction in Isaiah, and says Babylon needs to fall, and the Jews eventually return and rebuild Israel. So there's all of that kind of Old Testament story behind it, but it's also something new, and this kind of new a new Babylon and a new focused city of power that will ultimately need to be destroyed.
So many boss fights in Revelation, isn't there?
Boss
I mean, we've had how many? I mean, what I'm saying is these are major enemies that we're like one after the other. You know what I'm saying, right? I mean, now we've got this great whore to face. So I can't wait to see what she looks like in the in these artworks. So let's have a look, shall we? This is from the Getty Apocalypse. There she is. So I mean, quite clearly, she's sitting on the first beast.
Yeah. And notice here, her hair is kind of poking out. So again, like in medieval times, you'd have your hair kind of restricted, and you'd also have your your headscarf quite tightly done, but it's all kind of loose, showing that she's got kind of loose morals.
Yeah, and look at her jaunty
pose.
Jaunty pose, the manner of putting a palm out like that. Yeah. Okay. Any comments on this, Semigog? Should we carry on? This is the Whore of Babylon, right?
But I did keep this image in mind. I just threw one in. I know that Pharaoh is doing his usually excellent job of bringing in all this iconography, but I doubt that he included a particular Crowley tarot card that echoes all of this. So I just sent it to you by DM on Twitter, because it's interesting how this survives in yet another domain.
Let me have a look. So this is a tarot card. Oh yes, and I remember this because of the Trump's lust. Let me just here we go. So this is a tarot card, Semigog.
Yes, and it just echoes the symbolism in any number of respects. I mean, there are many ways in which Crowley pulled this sort of imagery into his own little system. So yeah, I thought it was interesting because you see the woman seated on the beast in a similar fashion, and you got the multiple heads and the rest. Yeah, and you have the idea of the praying hands underneath, and it looks like
it's very obviously the Whore of Babylon again, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. With this one, it's more explicit because again, she's riding side saddle in the other one, which again is like the way that ladies are meant to ride, and this one she's literally riding the beast like a man. And again, there's
naked,
yeah, and obviously naked and in this kind of sexual pose. But I like the beast. The beast in this one is great with the kind of it's showing the kings and the kind of monsters quite explicitly there, which is cool.
Absolute filth. So let's carry on. Kind of interesting, the Whore of Babylon. So yeah, there's the much more modest Whore of Babylon from 1255.
Well, again, like with that hair out is back in medieval times. That's a serious deal.
Showing a bit of ankle.
Yeah, and that business of not being seated directly, with your legs spread over the object, being off limits for women. I mean, that survives to this day with male and female bicycle frames. So it's not something that we should sneer at so much. Or rather, I should say, it has survived in our culture in ways that are forgotten. I definitely think the most based thing is male and female bicycle frames. If we dispense with the difference there, I think we've just, our culture has just slid another, 60 meters down the slippery slope into hell.
The male-female bicycles is the true end.
It is.
Yeah, one step too far. And now, we've got another one now. Oh my God! Now this one, there's that meme of like the withered Wojak.
Yeah,
she's very withered Wojak, isn't she? Look at her. She's kind of.
Is this a textile, Pharaoh?
Yeah. This is another one of those tapestries again. But again, they've made it more explicit. Look how her hair is properly out now. This is kind of flowing down. She's got like a low cut top. So again, for the medieval period, that is the sign of being a prostitute. And I quite like the beast on this one because it reminds me a bit of like a leopardy camel thing. It's quite cool.
So
gorgeous colors though, man. The choices are just that red and green is just fantastic. And imagine what it looked like before those colors dulled slightly.
Yeah, if you go to Angers, they've got them all laid out, so you can see there's 64 of them. It's pretty amazing, and this is huge. This is like 2 meters tall by 6 meters wide, so it's very, very impressive.
Here's the York Minster one.
Yeah, less good, I think, but.
Where is she? Is that her?
Yeah, that's her there. Yeah, and she's dressed in red and purple. Purple's obviously the kind of the textile color of royalty, and again, red is obviously the kind of the Scarlet Woman, Lady in Red. So there's kind of connotations of being marked out, but it's the purple is interesting as well. She is this kind of figure of royalty and command as well. So this is why she's often analogized as being like this like mega city in charge of the kind of smaller beast cities. So it's kind of like, imagine if America created a brand new like mega city that was bigger than everything else, like New York times 2. That's kind of what Babylon is going to be.
Yeah. Just one quick question. In each one of these, there's been 2 pointers pointing at her. 2 figures pointing. Who are these 2?
So it's John, and then in this section, there's specifically an angel that comes down to talk and brings him to see Babylon, basically.
So this is John the Revelator with an angel.
Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
Very much echoed, of course, in the Commedia. Dante's work, where you have Virgil and Dante. The idea of someone who guides you through the phantasmagoria.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously he's replaced later with Beatrice, but at least through Inferno and part of Purgatorio.
Chaucer has that idea as well, where he's they love that. So this is another Dura, Whore of Babylon.
Yeah, if you see one of her first, because this has got a couple of different scenes in it. Again, she's kind of like looking even more kind of withered and old, but she's still kind of showing a lot of shoulder in this one. Her hair's out. I quite like the cup of wrath in this one that she's holding there. I think it's quite a beautiful little piece of silverware. And then sorry,
this is uncanny because I had a recurring nightmare when I was a kid that Marie Antoinette was sitting in my bedroom, terrified of the crowd about to execute her. And she looked almost identical to this here, very similar. And I would, I probably had that dream about 20 times or something. Yeah, kind of scary for me. But let's carry on. Yeah.
And then on the top right hand side, there's you can see this is sort of peeking ahead, but this is the destruction of Babylon. So again, God, I love this. You can see the kind of clouds falling down and setting fire to it. And there's a I don't think I've covered it in this because of time purposes, but there's a brilliant line where they say the merchants weep for Babylon, which I thought was quite funny. So yeah,
the merchants weep. Yeah, I mean, I wonder what their Babylon is going to be. Maybe it's that Africa plan they've got, because they want to unite Africa into one big super state. So
yeah, Bill Gates did start to build his own city the other day. I was tweeting about that. So it was like about a month ago.
I love when Pharaoh gets spicy.
Yeah, I'm just checking out. So this is the beast again. Has he maintained the same heads, or has he changed up the heads yet again?
I think he's changed them a little bit. There's just a bit of artistic license there, but I think they're pretty.
There's horrendous. The fiery. There's the fiery. There's the little rabbit man. Look, they're just at different angles. There's the rabbit man. There's the fiery. They're just different angles. Amazing. There's the old never-ending story. Look. So, and then look at these little minions in the crowd. these guys are so ripe for memeing, chaps.
I think these are the merchants, because again it goes on about how Babylon is this like seat of luxuriousness, how people buy slaves and pearls and silks and wonderful things there, and there's this they are devastated when Babylon is destroyed, and then that's Christ coming down. So we're skipping ahead.
These are God's forces now, are they?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but we're skipping ahead a little bit with this, but he's done like a composite piece here.
Very, very interesting. Okay. Everybody has to admit this is the coolest thing ever. This, as we're going through here, I just love it. Okay, so this is the Athos from 1533 again. There she is.
So this is just Greek interpretations, but again, I quite like the crown on this one, and again, it's got her hair flowing down from the back. And then again, she's on this expensive textile you can see as she's using as a saddle. So a bit different.
And there they are, the
merchants. Yeah.
So I mean, is this, in my understanding from the way you've been talking, Pharaoh, this beast and the whore, they're meant to be metaphorical of like actual kingdoms and cities rather than it's like the physical manifestation of an emblem of something else. It's like a kind of metaphor basically.
Yeah, but he sees this vision first, and then the angel in the paragraph afterwards explicitly reads out. I can read it the little bit out if you want me to. So this is chapter 17 verses 9. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 hills on which the woman sits. There are also 7 kings. 5 has fallen, 1 is, the other is not yet to come. But when he does come, he will remain only for a little while. And then anyway, it goes on, but it's all tied to physical things, and it's explicit that Babylon is a city. And again, in the context of the Old Testament, it would be recognized as that.
Well, but what I was talking about earlier when I talked about that visionary idea in the Neoplatonic realms and an intermediate thing between the physical manifestation and ideas, somebody was ragging on me saying it's gobbledygook, I think, but it bears out the point that in this visionary realm in which the person experiences visions such as these, they are by their very nature multivalent. And so you can tie it to specific things like the tradition that Rome is built on 7 hills, that Constantinople or as well, Byzantium being built on 7 hills, more loosely interpreted, of course. But at the same time, these other sorts of meanings that you can draw from it are there in their very nature. It's like a poem, or people who aren't as into poetry, take a look at song lyrics. You know, somebody knows they write their song and it seems to be about this one thing that the author of the lyrics had in mind, but immediately it other sets of interpretations inhere or adhere to the sort of basic visionary structures. So when I brought that up, I mean, it's to underscore that we have a very rich tradition of how to approach these visionary things. They've just been dispensed with. And, you know, I think there's, you know, AA is sort of like waves crashing on the rocks of this idea, trying to explicitly in a very concrete empirical way, like call out a one-to-one correspondence, when obviously the nature of this, to say nothing of the various ways it's interpreted, the nature of these sort of visionary theophanies is or apocalypses or what have you, is that they are multivalent. They always will be. It's their nature. They're in between. They're not the distinct empirical one-to-one correspondence kind of place. They are another place entirely from the realm of this direct sense experience.
And then we have Blake. This is interesting. Okay, so
I mean he's kind of more explicit with the whore-like nature. So again, she's kind of turns the character. She's kind of bare-breasted, dressed in jewelry, and then you got the kind of cup of wrath here with all of the spirits emanating from it.
She seems to be She seems to be orientalized, I would say, Eastern.
Yes, it's almost like harem trousers or whatever. Yes, exactly.
And then there's the beast.
Yeah, so his beast is more like more human in appearance again, if you remember. But again, this shows the scale of the creature, with the humans either kind of looking adoringly up at her or being consumed by the beast.
And what's this coming from her cup? This is like
it's
temptations, or something. Is it temptations or revelries or something like this?
Yeah, it could be kind of like some kind of hedonistic force, because she's commanding it as well.
Yeah, look, they went into this guy, and now he's like taking the drink or whatever.
Yeah,
he's not fighting. He's just
adoringly looking at her. Yes, yeah.
And this is another one of her minions, and they just fall about in hedonism or whatever. So very, very cool. They've been excellent selections this week, I think. So let's move on then. I think we're making good time. We should be able to finish here. There's only 2 bits left, so I think it's your turn, Pharaoh. We're on the Battle of the Beasts.
Yes, 1 second. And I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. And he that was sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. His eyes were a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dripped in blood, and his name was called the Word of God. And the animals which were in heaven followed him the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. And he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Almighty God, and he hath on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, Come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great God, that ye may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and them that sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bound, but small and great. And I saw the beast and the king of the earth and the armies gathered together to make a war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. And the beast was taken, and with the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived that had received the mark of the beast, and then that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into a lake of burning with brimstone. And the remnant was slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh.
So that's a bit of divine retribution right there. Get into the lake of fire, all of you.
There's an interesting thing with the wine press too, because that's a sort of Dionysian tradition. The idea that we call a beverage a spirit, like drinking spirits, but the idea of crushing the grapes to yield the liquid, and then that creates spirits. There's an etymological game there. The idea of the body being crushed and destroyed. And giving rise to the spirit. You have the idea of Dionysius or the Bacchanalia and the Maenads just tearing people apart. And the idea that somehow in the flesh is contained the spirit, and by treading and crushing it, you release the spiritus that in a sort of a pun or a game kind of way is also the spirit itself, and that you're lost. That spirit in and of itself is intoxicating. There are many of these sort of pagan echoes in some of this.
Yeah, so let's have a look at how this is depicted then. This is like a goody beast that's come, the Word of God. Which, I mean, is this basically like...
That's Jesus.
Jesus polymorph into beast to face the beast, yeah.
In the beginning was the word.
Polymorphing.
Yeah, polymorph self. High level mage spell. Anyway, let's have a look. So
this is Ben West, the American painter, the second Royal Academy guy, and again he's kind of painting in the Romantic style. There's actually not that many paintings or pictures of this kind of battle between the beasts and and Jesus. But here you can see Jesus descending down from above on a white horse, dressed as like a Roman conqueror. So that's the kind of romanticism. And you've got this kind of pure light. You've got the kind of sense of, I guess, kind of horizontalness from the kind of clouds and from the rays of sun. And then in the darkness and the malaise, you can see the kind of heads of the beasts and the kind of evil creatures that are being defeated. There's like a troll-like creature on the right.
Mm-hmm. Where is that troll-like creature? This thing?
Yeah, do you see his face is really horrible, and I think that's meant to be the first beast below as well.
This is the first beast here.
Yeah, you can see its multiple heads, I think. So
okay.
There's an echo also of the prince or kings or the mighty man or the great warrior who appears on the white horse. We've got the image of the, I'm sorry, I keep going back to this, but the multivalence of the images and the way they appear in all times and places, if they're true, because they precede physical reality, they're ontologically prior. So you have the idea of the man on the white horse. We don't think about it today. There's a great, I think it's an Ambrose Bierce story about a rider on a white horse in the Civil War and how the people are watching as he goes to scout past a ridgeline. We don't think about it, but to be mounted on a white horse means that you're a target for everybody on the opposing side because you stand out, and to bring you down would be like a thing that everybody could celebrate. So simply by putting him on a white horse, there's this whole sort of backstory, which is that you're completely unafraid, completely sort of invincible. You don't care that you would become the central focus of the enemy to be taken down. And we definitely see here a Christ who is not at all concerned about turning the other cheek.
I mean, there's a few things to mention here, because a lot of people, I think, now have this image of Christianity as being a bit wet, basically, right? And this is one of the reasons that I like Revelate, because this is such a like a muscular Christ who's come literally to cleanse with fire here. So that's the first thing I'd mention. This is not the not a kind of pansy Jesus that a lot of people think about. And the second thing is that it's interesting to me that the fire is on the good side here. And if you remember, the dragon was shooting water.
Yeah.
I find that kind of interesting, that fire is associated with the good, because if you were to show this to some people, just taking it out of context and just show them that, the imagery looks quite. Have you seen those guys who are doing that Apolloism thing, like the Brahmin guys? And this seems like a very Apollonian type figure as well, because that's all about fire and kind of muscular people on horses and so on. So
that's the kind of neoclassical element coming through. I mean, he's literally drawing from classical models and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely. And again, the kind of outfit he's wearing is kind of like a Roman parade outfit, isn't it? So
yeah.
And there's also the idea of the direct elemental competition, water and fire being opposing.
But fire winning out, interestingly, because I mean, I guess he'd be on the side of the sun, right? Because he's coming from the sky. I don't know, but I think a lot of people would switch it, right? You'd think that hell and Satan would have fire on their side, and that maybe Jesus would bring like healing and water. I don't know, but this kind of switches it around, which I find interesting. Then this is the final battle from this old. Was this from 1250 or something?
Yes, yeah. And I quite like this. I just like the guy kicking the beast into the water via his butt there, and again Jesus with his sword there, just being relatively chilled out.
So there we go. Is this John the Revelator peeking through the whole time? It's an enduring feature of these.
And do you happen to know what that green pigment is produced with, Pharaoh? Is that copper, perhaps? Do you know what the word?
No idea, because it's a little bit lighter than a copper tone, I would say. But I'm sure John D would be able to tell us.
Right. And then so
I got this because obviously he's described as the Word, and they've literally put words on him.
Yeah, I can just
based,
see
man. That's
literally the
badass.
word. Yeah, literally the word.
Like speaking of logos, right?
I mean, this is a very muscular Jesus yet again. Like it's kind of built up there, put points into strength. Oh, Jesus here. Where is the beast though? Oh, there's the beast.
Okay. Yeah, that's the beast of the earth. So again, he's sort of you know the kind of like whatever Satan is the goat or whatever. It's sort of looks similar to the second beast, I think.
What's going on down here?
I think those are like people who have had the mark of the beasts, and they've just been killed because of their allegiance to evil.
Friend good, enemy bad.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, let's carry on. Then we've got this
so again, I quite like the last line of that thing, which is and all the fowls were filled with their flesh. So all the birds ate the dead bodies. There were so many dead bodies that it was just like a huge feast for birds. There's a better picture on the next one, actually.
Here we go. These are the birds coming down. Are they just feasting on the flesh? Is that?
Yeah, feasting on the dead bodies that had been slain by Christ.
It's just horrific, isn't it? There they are, feasting on them like carrion.
Yeah, the image of a battlefield after the battle is done, before the bodies have been policed up, so to speak, if indeed that would ever happen, is something to meditate upon, because it's, we don't see that. Of course, in our culture, as soon as somebody's dead, they're whisked away and dealt with. We don't have the traditions of washing the body, the family washing the body or whatever, or preparing it, or vigils kept over the body for a period of time after they die. These are certainly things that we never see, but clearly this sort of imagery of the birds and scavengers and the rest coming to a battlefield after the fight is ended, that would have to have been something that many of these people were familiar with. Definitely something to meditate upon or contemplate.
So going into the final bit now is judgment. It's my turn. I think it's my turn, isn't it? And cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he should be loosed a little season. And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they judged every man according to their works. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. Epic.
We've actually, this is actually a slightly older version where I missed out a paragraph, annoyingly. But basically, after Satan is loosed out, he goes and so basically Satan gets captured during that battle, and then is stored in a prison for 1,000 years, and then is let out for a final time. And there's an important sentence coming up, which is and he goes out to deceive the nations which are in the 4 quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle. And there is this second battle where God comes down again and finally finishes off Satan himself. So that first battle defeats the beasts. The second battle defeats Gog and Magog, which represents all the peoples of the earth, and Satan. And then you've obviously got the kind of judgment scene here as well.
If your name's not down, you ain't coming in. All right, so let's have a look. Now, can I just say one thing? just a very quick theological question to any Calvinists around. It very clearly says here, judged every man according to their works. So how do the Calvinists reconcile with this, with their idea of the predestination? Because it very clearly says that you're judged according to your works.
But they would say whoever was not written in the book of life. So again, the idea of a book with names predestined on it.
But it says they'll be judged. You're in the book because you're judged according to your works.
But
I mean, I don't want to get into a theological debate here, but you know,
the books are there first. But so again, the books are pre-written.
Right. That's back to that idea of there's no duration, there's no sequence, it's eternity.
Yeah, it's.
But what's the point of putting in the caveat about the works? There's no point of mentioning the works if it's just if you're not part of this book, you're not coming in. But if you were part of that book, you'd have no reason to do good work. So
yeah,
the works surely are important.
This is literally the beginning of the 100 Years' War. So that was a 30 Years' War.
Come on, cringe warrior. Where am I?
It's the mystery of predestination versus free will.
Where's Nathan Hurd and Lambda? I want to take up this with the Calvinists. They need to surely Christianity is only coherent if the works are important. Surely. Anyway, that's for another day. But let's have a look at some depictions of this then in the arts. So this is the York Minster.
Yeah, this is the binding of Satan for that 1,000 years, and again I really like this kind of like hulking red Satan that they've got, and that's Michael with the key, and he's being tied up and bound with chains.
1,000 years, okay. And then Philip James de Lothborough.
Yeah, so this is another romantic artist here, and again I quite like Satan because he's sort of like this almost merman with his kind of fish legs and a skull face, and Michael's binding him with some chains. I mean, it's less epic, but it's quite a good depiction of Satan, I thought.
Oh, is this a man or a woman?
It's meant to be a man. If you remember last time, he did the conquest on the horse, and it was quite a womanly conquest as well. I think that's
very womanly man. Yeah. And then this is cool though, isn't it? The depiction of he's got a skull face.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's interesting that Satan's turned back from his dragon form here. I'm guessing at some part in the intervening 1,000 years, he's turned back into a different form. He's no longer the multi-headed dragon. That was just for the summoning, was it?
I don't know specifically, but yeah, that's quite a unique interpretation. I don't think I've seen Satan. And can you see how his legs turn into like almost like tendrils? Or like I said,
yeah.
If you see medieval depictions of mermaids, they don't have one fin; they have two, which go off their legs. So it's kind of similar to that.
Okay, so we keep on going. Here's Blake. More of the training of Satan here.
Yeah, and
I like this one because there's there's good like downward momentum here, and it's almost like a wrestling hold he's got him in. It's quite cool.
Wrestling hold.
But it is a wrestling hold. Look, so I mean, what do you call that? It's like kind of a crossface. It's a crossface that he's got him in. So, yeah. I like the Blake. The Blake ones themselves are awesome, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean,
Blake is utterly based.
So there we go. No, this is Epstein, 1960.
Yeah, I put in some modern stuff as well, and you can see this is like Epstein's quite a famous like modernist, and this is on the wall of Coventry Cathedral. So that, the new one that replaced the beautiful Gothic one, but I put it in there just to kind of show you that there are some modern interpretations, but they're very weak in comparison, I think.
Why has he got such a Weasley neck?
Epstein has these quite kind of lithe figures for like the men that he draws. He's quite famous for doing Rock Drill, which is this kind of robot-like character drilling drilling into the ground. But yeah, I'm not too much of a fan, but it was one of the more modern pieces.
Also, it looks like, I mean, to bring back the wrestling, he looks like he's doing a head stomp there, which is quite a heelish move. So anyway, we'll carry on. This is Gog Magog.
Okay, so this is a really interesting story. So obviously they reference Gog Magog basically being on Satan's side. Now I don't know if you know much about the City of London, but in the Guildhall, they have these two statues of giants, and their names are Gog and Magog. And they actually burnt down in the 19th century, and so were redone. This is what they used to look like. But again, there's some interesting, I'm sure, conspiratorial thinking around this. But why does the City of London literally have like Satan's henchmen as its kind of like patronal spirits, if that makes sense?
I mean, maybe London is the Babylon, right?
Well,
London is a massive city. So
yeah. So that's Gog, and then if you go to the next one, you'll see Magog here, and it's really a shame because these are really good sculptures, and then you'll see in a second what they got replaced with in the 20th century, and it's nothing as good as this.
I noticed that Magog is an archer. He's wielding a bow. Look.
Yeah, and he's also got, if you look, he's got a morning star on a stick, which is again quite rare.
Oh yeah, a flail, as we call them. I guess that's a flail, right? All right, so they got replaced with. Oh my god!
No, this is so every single year. They have like the Lord's Mayor Parade. I put this in because this is Gog and Magog, and do you know which guild this is that created this Gog and Magog?
No idea.
It's the guild of basket weavers. So two basket woven Gog and Magog there being paraded around London.
Gog and Magog. Okay, people are saying it's Ornstein and Smog. Yeah. There we go. And I mean, what do they parade them around? Like, do they parade them around to destroy them, or?
It's the Lord's Mayor Parade. I think they do set fire to them or something. Maybe I'm not 100% sure, but very creepy. And
so this is what they got replaced by.
Yeah,
they're much more Oriental looking figures. These.
Yeah, I mean they call them giants, and that's why they're kind of I know, weirdly shaped or whatever. But
I can see Magog is still wielding the flail.
Yeah,
he's got a halberd and shield combo. Look. So there we go.
And then
earth is this?
And for the prog fans, basically Genesis, as part of their Foxtrot album, created a song called "Supper's Ready," where they basically go through some of the story of Revelation. And in the live stage show of "Supper's Ready," Peter Gabriel would don this mask, and this is his kind of like stage interpretation of Magog. So for the last part of the song, where they literally talk about Gog Magog arising and stuff, this is Peter Gabriel as Magog. So it's a bit of performance art for you, but it's
entirely unexpected prog rock reference.
Now, if any games developers are watching this, please get in touch, because I want to design Revelation the game. It's going to be. Can you imagine you got the Whore of Babylon as a boss battle, Gog and Magog as boss battles, the Four Horsemen, the two beasts. I mean, you can have some epic fun with. Come on, we have to make it. We have to make Revelation the video game. Anyway, let's carry on.
And just like that, he brought it down to date.
If you're going to talk about Genesis, I mean, look, you're talking about Genesis flute player.
This is high performance art. This is
right.
Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if you play as Jesus. Maybe you'd play as maybe the setup that you play as John the Revelator, looking through, looking through that window. So it could be like a frame within a frame metaphor. So almost like how Assassin's Creed is framed as being like a kind of it's almost like a mind trip, isn't it? Assassin's Creed. It's like you're in a simulation. You could like be your John the Revelator, and you have you play out the vision. That could also deal with some of the continuity issues. All right. Anyway, carry on. So here is.
Oh yes. So this is now. There's that one line too, and the sea shall give up their dead, and so this is basically this is the resurrection basically. So people that have died in the sea come back out for their judgment, and people who have died in the past come out of like the first hell, or Tartarus, as it's sometimes referred to. So for judgment as well. So they're kind of holding place of souls.
No, this is an interesting theological point, but my understanding is that in the Catholic tradition, this is meant to physically happen. So it's like physically the dead bodies come out of the ground. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, and the Protestant tradition as well. But in the Catholic, they would have souls being in purgatory as the intermediate state before the second hell, the true hell.
So you'd literally have, I mean, when people talk about the zombie apocalypse, I mean, the actual apocalypse is the zombie apocalypse, because you'd get all of these zombies coming out of the ground.
They're not zombies. A zombie is a creature that is neither dead nor alive. It has the dual state, while a resurrected person is wholly alive still. So
yeah, but their body would be all decayed, or does the flesh magically come back somehow?
Yes, they would be rejuvenated, the skin knitted back together again.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, has this ever been depicted in a movie or anything? This moment, because again, I still think the revelation would be, I talked about video game. Where's the movie? It'd be so good. Anyway.
Oh no.
Why not though? Come on, you've got to admit that this is epic. Why wouldn't you make a movie?
It's epic. It's epic for sure.
They made a movie of Dante's Inferno, so why not this?
You just have to pop culture it. I get it.
Oh, all right. Okay, so this is Frederick Leighton.
Yeah, so Lord Leighton is a famous late Victorian academic painter, and this is kind of like a little bit different. One of the kind of later pieces, and again, this is people coming out of the sea again, and it's quite a famous piece. But I thought it was quite beautiful, and you can see that the sea there, like this family that was obviously shipwrecked, and sort of people waking up, looking to the skies. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Who's this fellow here?
Again, it's just the anonymous dead, isn't it? But again, it's the kind of the joy of resurrection there.
Now, AA wants to know, that's Frank Jones.
Sorry.
Okay, what's going on here?
So this is Stanley Spencer. He's a kind of a famous modernist painter. But after the First World War, he painted an entire chapel in like 360, and this is kind of like the First World War dead resurrecting. So again, it's something very specific, but it's an amazing space. So it's done on all three walls, and you can see, if you zoom in, you can see that these are all soldiers that died in the First World War. So again, very very kind of poignant and timely at the time. So and yeah, you can see them kind of discarding their crosses as they arrive, and there's like a big pile of them below, and they're all still dressed in their kind of military gear. They're kind of unwrapping the kind of bindings of the feet and stuff. So
very interesting. Okay, and then we have mosaic of the Florence back. This is the Last Judgment.
Yeah. So in medieval, so moving on from past the resurrection and into judgment. Judgment typically has God at the center, and then on the left-hand side you'll have people going to heaven, and on the right going to hell. And then this is kind of like an early medieval depiction of hell. You can see again, it's interesting. Satan is cast into hell, but in the medieval version, Satan is also kind of like eating people up on his way to hell as well. So you can see him devouring the souls of the dead, and then various spirits throwing people into the fire at the same time.
Has he got like hip snakes here? Just snakes coming out of his hips, just eating random people.
And out of his ears as well. If you look,
his ears, yeah, snake ears. Horrific. And is his arm turning into a snake there as well? I think his arm is eating something there.
Yeah, eating a man. This isn't even the most disgusting depiction. This is one of the nicer ones coming up. So,
oh look, a little callback. Didn't we see this creature in the earlier ones? This fellow down here. Isn't that the original like beastie thing from like
the Hellmouth, maybe actually.
Yeah, that's the Hellmouth there.
Yeah, it does look similar actually.
Wonder if he's got the whole crew there, first and second beast, Hellmouth.
Yeah.
I mean, did we encounter Leviathan and Behemoth at some point?
No, those are Old Testament.
Oh, they're in the Old Testament. Okay. Yeah. So, what are the like? It's almost like they're little like lizard creatures as well. Like little lizards.
Again, I think they're meant to kind of depict Satan's demons here, pouring people into hell. So.
And then over on the right is heaven over here.
No, this is more. That's just all hell, basically.
It's just all. This is all hell. Yeah.
This is just an all hell one. There you go. Someone being roasted at the bottom down there.
Awesome. Yeah, literally on a spit roast. Look, awesome. This is epic. This one, again, one of my favorites. And this is from 1225.
Yeah. So you know the Duomo, in Florence, the big building. It's the small baptistry next to it. It's just like a octagonal building. It's got a ring of mosaics around the outside. So.
With those famous bronze doors, right?
Yes, that's right.
I like this one. This is cool.
Just you wait. You're gonna love this little section, I think. So
this is another Last Judgment. This is by
Jan van Eyck. So he's quite famous. He does the like the merchant with his wife, and she looks like pregnant, and there's a mirror in the background. It's quite famous. It's like a medieval. Anyway, you'll either know it or you don't. But on the left hand side, this is a diptych. On the left, you've got the crucifixion, and you can see Jesus being crucified. But on the right, you've got Judgment Day. So if you zoom in on the right from the top, and we'll go down, but you've got Christ seated on the heavenly throne across there. He's flying in the air, and then as you kind of zoom down, you'll see different parts here. The angels around him. They've got the trumpets.
7 trumpets. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the kind of the kings, I'm pretty sure, and then the kings in white, and then there's the kind of elders and the people close by to Jesus at the very top. And then as you kind of scroll down, you've got Michael there, and there you can see the bodies being resurrected at this level, so resurrected out of the earth and out of the sea. And now this is basically welcome to hell.
Wicked, absolutely wicked skeleton here. Skull,
yeah, and then this is hell devouring the various people here. So it's like a melange of various beasties tearing people to shreds for eternity.
Oof. Wouldn't want to be down there.
Well, then mend your ways, sinner.
Yeah, they deserved it though.
If you look at the again the hats, can you see there's the papal?
Yeah, I noticed him. Yeah.
Oh, there's the mitre, and then there's the cardinal hats to the left, which is the red one.
I hate to bring this down again, but is that Bart Simpson hiding in the background there? You see him?
That's the worst one yet. That is like
that looks like Bart Simpson. Look, there's his hair, and there's his little eye, and no. Oh, all right.
I will isolate.
I'm just seeing who else is in here. There's a little cat creature in there. A lot of detail in here.
Yeah, again, Van Eyck's known for his kind of like hyper realism, but again, like the biting is pretty horrific.
My gosh, hellish, quite literally. Okay, we could look at this all day, I suppose. I mean, it's a lot. It's another kind of little horrible bat creature thing. Yeah. All right, so let's carry on. No, this is what's this?
Fra Angelico. Again, he's a famous Renaissance fresco painter. He used to be a friar, and again, this is just a depiction of hell. And I quite like this one because you can see there's like a monkey cooking some kind of oats / maybe it's gold, and it's kind of, can you see on the top left there, and it's being fed to a human. On the right, they're just being boiled alive, and then.
Looks like molten gold being poured into the throat for those who desired it. You can also see the echo. What is it? Cocytus there at the end in the first book of the Commedia and the Inferno at the end. You've got the 3 mouths at the very bottom, of this central figure that's devouring. If I'm remembering correctly, like one of them is Judas or whatever. So that idea of the 3-headed creature that's devouring the sinners, I think is sort of an inversion of the Trinity. You can see sort of that has been locked in the iconography here.
What's this little monkey man on the left here? It's just like
just another demon, monkey demon.
Monkey demon, and then look at them; they're being boiled alive in this. I mean, presumably this is Satan just having a bit of a munch, right?
Yes. Yeah, it could be. I don't know. I think it's just a generic demon.
That's exactly what came to mind. A bit of a munch. That's exactly. I immediately thought that. Yes.
Little light snack there.
Yeah, she deserves it as well. Look, poking your tongue out there. Okay, and let's carry on. And is this by the same artist?
Yeah. This is the whole thing actually. So you can see. I just did a zoom in, but because you can't see it. But on the right, you can see Satan, and our scene that we just saw was just the very bottom right of that.
I can see. Yeah,
it's an absolutely vast piece. But I quite like the. I mean, if you look at heaven on the left-hand side, they're all having a little kind of sing-song around a campfire, which is quite good.
What a lovely old time! Look, everybody's holding hands and everybody's happy, and yeah, there they all are. Lovely old time. Lovely. You want to be there. Oh, look, there's a bit of a struggle going on here as these people are being pushed in there, right? These are the sinners being pushed into hell. And look, they go through this. See, they go through this kind of meat grinder here into the kind of
the pit.
Yes.
The little munch.
Yeah, and then
I think that they're kind of like gluttons that are just looking at food and they can't eat it, so they're kind of tormented.
Oh yeah, look, yeah, and I mean, I'm guessing that these other ones represent something as well. If we were really to zoom in as to what was going on here,
they often do the 7 deadly sins as stuff, but I'm not sure there's
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe, or 7
here.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Very interesting. Okay, these are great. Some of these ones because you could look at them all day, couldn't you? Let's. I'm hearing wailing in the background, so we should probably get a move on. So this is
Memling. So he did the John right at the beginning. Remember, with the full circle rainbows, and you can see again the full circles there. I quite like his Jesus because he's got again the kind of sword coming out of his mouth at the top there, which is pretty cool. And then again in the center, you've got the resurrection beneath him. You scroll down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and there's Michael, and he's literally weighing souls, and then on the left, the worthy soul is heavier than the unworthy one, and then St. Peter with his keys on the left-hand side, ushering people into heaven.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Stairway to heaven there.
On your way. Highway to heaven.
And then on the right-hand side.
Diversity in Memling there. What? How did he get in there? I'm just saying, like, it occurred to him to put this figure in. That would be used by a woke scholar as proof, basically, that in 1467 it's perfectly fine to have loads of black actors playing major historical figures. I'm sure of it.
I did see the English Heritage has just done like an entire series on just that kind of stuff on their YouTube channel.
But I'm sure this figure here would be used as that justification.
That's a PhD for someone in there. Just in
that one face is a PhD chapter at the very least. And then over on this side, we can see, there they are being prodded into hell.
Yeah, I mean, it's much more fleshy, isn't it? Again, it's quite real, and in some ways more chaotic. But and then if you go to the full right hand side, then this is the full hell panel.
Yeah, they are the demons, and
yeah, I'm a big fan of Memling. Very cool.
Very cool. Okay, so look at that thing there. So kind of orangutan beast dog creature.
Yeah.
So, just for balance sake, there's a diversity going to hell as well. There. See him?
Yep.
Well, what's the date on this?
Oh, it's 1467.
1467.
Yeah, at that point, the Portuguese are going all the way around the west coast of Africa and trading heavily. In Spain and Italy are big banking operations. The banking operations out of Italy and the fleets coming out of Spain and Portugal. So they were exposed. They were beginning to be more exposed to different races. In terms of it being in the public awareness, and it looks like in the background there, with that figure of the African or black guy, it looks like right next to him is probably a Saracen or an Arab.
Oh, him there. Talking about.
Well, no, I was thinking of the one over on the left. That one over there. That one guy looks. Yeah, he's a Persian.
Right. Well, he's going to heaven. Right. Deservedly so. I wonder if this guy is like Far Eastern gentleman, maybe.
Actually, it does look like it could be. Quite right.
He got a Japanese haircut, doesn't he? Okay, yeah. So we'll carry on. This is Michelangelo. Oh, I've seen this. I've seen this in real life. This is the Last Judgment, right?
Yeah.
I remember this was my favorite thing when I went to. This is in Rome, right? This one.
Yeah, that's right. So again, obviously this is a little bit later. So if classicism's come back, it's all about again the flesh, these classical poses. At the bottom you can see people being resurrected, and then on the right, people off to hell. On the bottom right, I mean, some of my favorite parts are there's a guy with like a skin suit next to him. If you zoom in,
this is as far as I can go.
Oh, okay, sorry. There you go.
This one. This.
Yeah, so that's his kind of like old body, and now he's got his resurrection body. So there's sort of two resurrections. They're resurrected to a mortal body, and then resurrected to an immortal body as well. So
yeah. This guy's thinking, I could have had some hair. You return me, and you don't give me any hair back. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if these are not saints with the emblems of their
they are
beatification, right?
On the right, you can see Catherine with her wheel. I'm pretty sure the spiked wheel.
Right. So that's probably a saint who was flayed, right?
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay.
Maybe one day somebody can tell me why everybody likes Michelangelo's paintings. They don't. His sculptures are magnificent, but his paintings, I'm just kind of like, Maybe I'm.
Everybody's kind of got these weird, like overly muscly bodies, don't they? Kind of lumpy.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a Michelangelo thing. That also, I mean, I think it's kind of parallels Blake's vibe, really.
Yeah, it is that kind of like classic. The classical mind is always focused on bodily perfection beyond reality. So again, like those saints would never be that buff.
Look at this guy being dragged to hell here. I mean, look at the big old back on him. Yeah, all right. So, okay, carry on. Franz Floris.
Yeah, again, this is kind of like going into more kind of Baroque stuff, but yeah, maybe in the interest of time, we could just
let's have a look. What's this here? Is this just a demon? Look at his
demons pushing people to hell on the right hand side, and again, kind of people desperate not to go in, and then on the left hand side, heaven and kind of parade of people going to heaven.
Bet they're regretting their life choices now. And here's Blake.
Now Blake's one's it's just so intense. Now, if you just zoom out a second, sorry, because again, the whole picture has got like a meta picture to it as well. So again, it's kind of like this. There is a shape and a sculpture to it even before you get close to it, which is pretty impressive. But if you maybe start at the top again and then work down.
So there we've got Jesus.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then again, you've got angels sort of around him in a very fluid way, and then as you scroll down, you'll see kind of heaven and hell on the right hand side.
Just badass, man. Absolutely badass. Top drawer. The cat's pajamas. I mean, look at it.
I mean, I do think Blake and Drewer have been the standout artists that we've looked at. Would you guys agree that they would be the top two?
I would certainly, but I'm not as my palate is not as developed as Pharaoh's.
Pharaoh would like the what's his name, Heimling as well.
Memling's great as well. But no, I think they're both most excellent. But this is one you can again just spend forever just looking at all of the individual people and little scenes inside it. So
yeah, we'll have to try to. I don't know. I mean, this is your drive, Pharaoh. We'll have to try to like give people a link to this so they can browse in their own time.
You can put it in the description. It's fine. I think.
Okay. And then John Martin.
So John Martin is this. We saw some of his earlier work, but he does these kind of amazing landscapes, and he does The Last Judgment. It's a little known piece, but again, he's got this kind of like epic, desolate landscape. You can see at the very top there, Jesus on the white throne. And then as you go down, you can see kind of like a big chasm beneath it. But Martin's famous for like these. Apocalyptic scenes that are filled with kind of energy and desolation, and there's this kind of sense of scale. You know, even Christ is really small on this scene. You know, it's all about the landscape and the meaning of it. The setting sun on the right hand side, and can you see the little civilization of heaven on the left as well? I think you back here.
Well, if he's
Hello,
not,
guys. Sorry, I'm back. You guys still there?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes.
But can you scroll down there? Hey.
Communications breakdown.
Anyway, we'll just check out some more John Martin. Like he does. A lot of apocalypses. He does a Fall of Babylon, but the original Babylon as well by Cyrus, the Persian.
Which is nice to me.
Yes, can do.
Okay.
Can you hear us? Testing 1, 2, 3. Well, Pharaoh, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Yes. Well, that last painting certainly has one hell of an abyss. I mean, the sense of it all sort of going down the drain in the center is pretty strong.
Yeah, if you look at more of his stuff, again, it's all about kind of desolation and things falling apart. So, you know, it's very, very interesting.
Oh, all right. I'm sorry. My earphones came out, and I got to the bottom of the warbling in the background, basically, which is AAA had seen her dessert. She'd seen blueberries and oranges and strawberries and things. And because she'd seen it, now won't have her actual supper. So he's playing havoc to try to get to the fruit first. And we're insisting that she has a
She needs to eat the veg before she can get to the delights of the plate.
Exactly, the delights of the plate. So
how can you have any pudding if you don't eat your meat?
Exactly.
Right.
Are they the founding fathers there?
Well, again, it's that kind of, it's 1850. So, you know, I think he is a British artist.
That looks like the founding fathers of America there.
Can you show your screen, will you?
Oh, sorry, you can't see it. Sorry. Yeah, look, founding fathers. Is that Franklin and George Washington?
Anybody with white hair is a founding father. Is this artist an American?
No, he's British.
Well, look at Benjamin Franklin and George Washington. Look, Washington looked like that, and Franklin was kind of fat with longer hair. So I'm just saying.
Wow.
Maybe I think we need to fact check that. I really like on the right hand side. If you zoom in, can you see that angel there? Just really the face there on the the face. Yeah, just really unhappy, really grumpy.
Yeah.
Just the trumpet driving the person down into hell. That reminds me of trying to eat in the tourist areas of Istanbul when the gypsies would come up and start playing a horn in your ear to get you to tip them to go away.
There's some magnificent kind of use of light and dark in this. Look at this, cool, isn't it? Very cool. I like this one. Okay, John Martin. Yeah. Any other comments? You guys probably talked about this when I was unable to.
Yeah, we did.
Hear you.
You were experiencing your wardrobe malfunction. Yes, I just like the abyss in the center. It's just magnificent.
Moving into the 20th century, this is Vasnetsov. Is this a Russian?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, and that's the last one as well. So again, we saw him last time, and again he does these kind of Orthodox frescoes. So I just a different school and tradition, but I quite like it. So you can see the kind of angels decked out in Byzantine gear, and the throne of judgment with people. Can you see throwing themselves before the throne? Then you've got again Michael judging everyone, and you've got literally Satan as an advocate there. He's desperately trying to kind of stack all the kind of bad things that the person's done on the bad side, and that's the soul being judged across there.
Can you imagine the stack of he was like, right, these are all the Charlie Bingham meals you've had. Come on, surely that's going to stack it against him.
That's a list of pronouns that the schizophrenics have used. What's the date? What's the date on this?
1904.
Yeah.
Man, this is great.
He's really cool. You can zoom in a little bit further. I think you can get a bit more.
Yeah. There he is.
I just love the facial expression, and then again, either side you've got the kind of the satanic band on the right hand side who are just in desperation, and they're fighting with each other, and then on the left, everyone's all of those are looking up to God as well, so kind of showing the reverent versus the irreverent.
Base. Look at these base characters here, knights and things. Okay, yeah. Who's on the baddie side? I mean, he looks like some sort of Babylonian king or something, doesn't he?
Yeah, and you can see that like a bare-breasted woman again, some kind of courtesan.
Absolute harlot.
And the disorder of the figures on the right, and that you can see how there's just the chaos of the composition with the physical figures, and then they sort of like stumble and fall and become horizontal, and then they tip head first down into the hole. Whereas if you look over on the left, the way in which they're all sort of arranged in order, standing vertically,
facing upwards,
just
and then
great composition.
And then look at this. It reminds me of Stromboli from Pinocchio. Remember that evil? Look at him with his bags of money there, hoarding his money, correctly going to hell. And this is some glutton. Look, he's obviously a fat man, and this is a harlot, as we said. And then going down. What do we see? So
it's just this is the resurrection part of the scene. So again, like all the bodies, the people rising out of their tombs there, which I think is quite cool. And again, they're immediately looking up, and then on the right hand side, the lake of fire, which again you can see just the kind of licks and lashes, which I think is pretty horrifically beautiful.
This is a great one, another great one. I mean, we've seen some magnificent ones today, and. I'll see if I can put the link in the show notes so that people can browse these in their own time, because some really good ones. Okay, so just
before you wrap up, someone in chat was saying that it was Washington, and amongst many others, Thomas More, Wesley, Canute, Dante, Washington, Copernicus, Newton, Watt, and Chaucer.
So get in, have that Semiagog. I'm not the pleb you think I am.
I've just been backed up.
From the man, he said, I think that's Bart Simpson.
It did look like Bart Simpson, though.
This is second time I'm going to be forced to eat crow.
So there we go. And what I'll do is I'll share that Vox Day video on my community tab after we get out of here. All right. So in terms of super chats, I think there's only been a few from what I could see. I didn't see any in the entropy, but there's a few in the actual super chat. So let's have a look. Here we go. Maganisa Shan says, I have hundreds of dragons in my house as my daughter draws them every day and I archive them. It's from the imagination. Draw one and you'll see what I mean. So that's Maganisa Shan there saying that if you draw dragons, it will come from your imagination. Oh, somebody did send an entropy apparently. Pain in the ass. All right, so let me have a look at that in a second. Adam E says, for what is a man? What has he got? If not himself, then he has naught to say things he truly feels and not the words of one who kneels. Adam E also says, have Replankantfish guessed the Alpha Beta cigar stream? Well, the guy who's scheduled to come on is a guy called Red Hawk, who you know, is steeped in the PUA literature. So there we go. Forge in the Ashes says, enjoying the stream. Is there a reading list in prep for tomorrow? Yeah, the reading list is, if you want to take down a pen and paper, I'll send you these afterwards, Semi-Agog. But you can easily find these through the electronic library, the Z library, if you can find that. You'll find these for free. But the books are Rollo Tomasi, The Rational Male, Parts 1 and 2, Richard Cooper, The Unplugged Alpha, and Aaron Clary, The Book of Numbers. Those are the 3 books. I'll send you links to those later, Semi-Agog, if you're still going to come on. If you're not too knackered out by this stream.
No, Roger that. It should be fun. Thank you.
Jedi Knight Anna Quinn Cringe Walker says, it's been speculated that the woman with the child fleeing the dragon was actually the constellation Virgo, in which Jupiter, Jupiter was in, guiding the Magi, guiding the Magi. Why would it be the constellation Virgo as opposed to Mary? Anyone?
Don't know.
I don't know. It doesn't make sense, because what about the part where she has to run away from Satan with eagle's wings? So then, maybe would explain the moon surfing, though, I guess.
Jedi Knight Anakin Cringe Walker says Virgo means virgin, so Jupiter, the king planet, spending 9 months in the Virgin in. Oh, sorry, it's 0 AD is what he's trying to say. 0 AD would be pretty obvious hint to the Magi where Jesus was. So there we go. Interesting. Maganisa Shan says, the beast is amazing. Materialism held flora and fauna by the throat. There is a great resentment of the beast, which is actually amusing. Thank heavens for laughter. Lord Megatron says, I had this thought 4 years ago. Communism is like the first beast and socialism is the second beast of revelation, the latter conjuring false miracles to induce humanity to worship the former. I actually think that the problems are even worse than socialism and communism. I think there's something deeper there that would include capitalism ultimately as well. It's you know, the reign of quantity, as they talk about Pharaoh. Getting back to your carrot pill stuff. Peter Young II says, the thought of Babylon harkens back to a ritual in which the king would ascend the ziggurat, ritually incarnate a god, and lay her spewing Nephilim. Lay with her spawning Nephilim. So there we go. Page Unknown has just spent £2. Thank you very much. It means so much. Adam N. Hobbs says, to deny reality for one's earthly game is to spit in the eye of God. And Chris Lucio says, AA, if you don't get your act together, you'll be down there in the pit of hell too. Yeah, I mean, that's for the big man upstairs to decide ultimately. You know, maybe Charlie Bingham's a wise. And I have been going to my Blaze classes every day, you know, every other day. Getting a lot fitter now. Jacob says, for free will, see Romans 8:29, Romans 9:10, 24, and Ephesians 1:4, 1:11.
Ephesians
1:4, 1:11. So there we go. So that's on the free will argument. Yeah, I'm calling out the Calvinists. He explicitly says works over and over again. So there we go. Yeah, and because of lockdown, actually, we haven't been able to get old AAA baptized yet, so that's going to come soon. But I want to be assured that if we go to a Church of England for a baptism, that water is not going to be like tainted by wokeism. I mean, how does that matter? I mean, Vox Day made this point that you shouldn't mistake the current fallen state of the church and its worshippers for actual Christianity. So anyway, thank you very much, all. Pharaoh, anything you'd like to plug, sir?
Just finished off our series. So that's Alexander Adams, Panama, and myself on The Art of Darkness. We looked and compared at the mid-century Germans' art to Soviet realism, looking at how Stalin moved away from the degenerate art of Lenin into more traditional forms, which is quite interesting. So please subscribe and check that out.
I will definitely check that one out. Based Stalin. I mean, I have to say your front cover for Art of Darkness Part 2 is quite risque for you to.
I don't care. The things that Panama says, we're bound to get yeeted off YouTube eventually. So
you are dicing with dynamite there, son. With that one. Semi Agog, anything you'd like to plug, sir?
No, there's a Hold On My Strategy series. I've got a few in mind that I'm trying to arrange here that should be coming up soon, but I have nothing to announce at the moment, sadly. But soon, perhaps, that will change.
But if you haven't, you should check out Semi Agog's channel in general.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Pharaoh's, which is quite good. That Art of Darkness series, those 3 parts. I mean, I like all of them, but really the first one on fascism just really jumped. The Italians really just jumped out at me. I should clarify so that everybody's like, yeah, go learn about fascism on Pharaoh's channel. It's specifically about the art of these periods.
Let's get Pharaoh over 1,000 subs so he can get his channel monetized. Come on.
Absolutely.
Get him up over 1,000. Come on.
Best of all, we're doing a little art competition where we're all doing images of saffron if we go over 1,000. So
what are you going to do with saffron?
Well, Alexander's done a little sketch of her, you see. So we're all doing sketches.
You're all doing sketches of saffron.
Well, I think Panama's going to do a poem of some kind.
Of saffron? Is this like art simping?
It's not art simping. It was Alex's idea. You have to ask him about it.
Absolute art simping to saffron. My gosh. Nabrovnenik in the super chat says, check out the symbolic word site by Jonathan Pegu. Everybody keeps on telling me to check him out, but do you watch him at all? Anyone? What's his name?
I keep hearing the name, but I've not. I've heard it many times, as a matter of fact. But no, I've not.
Yeah, I'm subbed to him, but I don't think I still haven't watched anything. But yeah, he did a stream called Symbolism of the Beasts in the Book of Revelation 2 months ago, which has had like almost 70,000 views. So I just saw that there. So yeah, maybe we'll go and check that out. Maybe I'll check it out. I've got a lot of listening and watching to do, but it's very difficult when you've got a little one and you're making content and so on. It's I need more time.
Those soft hands.
Yeah, I need to go back down to my garage and get myself a big, fat H Upman and have a bit of a binge watch. Gaelic Reaction says, what do you make of the notion that what do you make of the notion that the woman clothed with the sun is actually of astrological significance? That would be over to you, Semigog. Yeah.
No, it's straight over to Pharaoh.
Yeah, it's that Jupiter thing. I'm not so sure about it personally, but because of the eagle's wings part doesn't make sense in my mind. But I think I need to look into it in more detail.
King Cribble says, Saffron is a lightning rod of cringe and degeneracy on this channel, but it's phrased as a quote. So who's he quoting?
You probably.
Oh, wow. I mean,
Surely.
Did I ever say that? Did I ever call her a lightning rod of cringe and degeneracy? I mean, she is, but, you know.
I fully support Saffron.
Oh, look at all of you simping for this. Can't believe it. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Yeah, like I said, make sure pick up a copy of the Trivium if you haven't already. Check out that Vox Day video that I'm about to share, as well as all the other things that we mentioned. And increasingly, people need to take Foundations of Economics, because the amount, it's your fault, Pharaoh. If you and that subversive D, you know, besmirching Austrian economics through your carrots, basically, people are forgetting their basic supply and demand and equilibrium and so on. But anyway,
it's the garden pill, AA. It's the garden of creation, and we can individually participate in it by cultivating our own little gardens. That's it. That's all. That's it.
All right. Bye, everyone. Get out.
Pip, pip.
Yeah.
No, Saffron isn't cute.